All right, if everybody would join me in pledge of allegiance, please. Pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you. So we only have Tim and Carrie, so thank you. Board reorganization. So each year we have to do a reorganization. And it is per policy 1210. We don't have any new board members this year. Call for nominations for president to serve during the year.
I nominate Eric Hogan this year.
Any further? All right. Any discussion? All right. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Eric, it needs to be a roll call.
Oh, sorry. Yep. It says roll call right here. Craig?
Yes.
Jerry?
Here.
No, you need to vote yes or no.
No.
Okay. I vote yes. Lindsay?
Yes.
Rebecca? All right. Thank you for your confidence. Call for nominations for vice president to serve during the next year.
Right.
Is there any further nominations? All right. Any discussion? All right. Roll call vote. Start with Craig again.
Yeah. No.
Yes.
Yes.
All right. Thank you. Call for a WASDA legislative representative to serve for the next 2 years, and I nominate Craig. Oh, it's for 2 years. We have 2 years
Say we're just.
But it's, yes, but it's in the
policy.
even years. So where we needed one,
Gotcha.
when Craig came on, then now we're doing it according to get back onto the.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's good for 2 years.
Yeah.
All right. Is there any further nominations? Discussion? All right. Roll call vote. Craig?
Yes.
Accept?
Yes.
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 All right. Thank you. All right. We have our organization for the next year. Thank you. Superintendent's report, Ms. Solomon.
All right. Well, nice to see everybody. Happy December. This is our one and only meeting in December. So first, I just want to start off with a congratulations to Coach Levi Hogan as the 2A GSL Coach of the Year. It's our first year in the GSL, and he was nominated by other coaches and received that. And I think that one thing that's just a testament to Coach Hogan is that I know that he not only coaches football, but he teaches the boys to be leaders, to be servants, to be family. He teaches much more than just football to these boys. And it really came apparent to me when we were doing the video, right? The inspirational video of the kids. And one of the kids, I don't know that he was shown on the film, but talked about just the heart for football, the team, why he loves football. It's because of Coach Hogan. And he says, I love you to the boys. So really makes them feel a part of the community, feel loved and cared for, that teaming aspect. So I just know that the coaching happens off the field just as much as it happens on the field. When I asked Levi for a response, he said, I don't feel like this football doesn't deserve individual recognition. And he thanked the community boosters and the players. So that just is a testament to who Coach Hogan is and what he stands for. So I thought that was pretty amazing. And I couldn't think of a better coach for that award to go to. So we've been talking about the last couple of years around this idea of a strategic plan. And for me, it was thinking about strategically how I wanted to launch it, what it looked like. I can figure out the plan and the execution of it. But what I was really trying to figure out, what is it that we want to get out of the strategic plan? So after looking and reviewing out of multiple other districts, I was thinking about who needs to be involved, literally everyone, and as much of the community that we can get to, but also inside the school district and our families. But then I needed to also think about the essential question and what is it that we wanted to be accomplished. So the two guiding questions that I came up with was one, how do we want our students to experience DPSD? The second question is, what is the profile of a graduate? So what are the characteristics, attributes, and knowledge students need when they leave DPSD? So those are the two guiding questions when I'm going out and getting information from stakeholders. So my timeline was I would like to begin heading into schools in January, perhaps even a brief survey out to the community. There's some information that I'll share with you, and we can circle back to this if this is something that you want to discuss more deeply at a board work session, if we want to talk about the strategic planning components. And I probably have enough of these for all of you too. But so the top is just the two questions that I have outlined. But as you look at this packet, one, the State Board of Education has outlined what they believe is the profile of a graduate from the state, right? It's not Deer Park. You can get a sense of what they want for all graduates, the skills, characteristics, and attributes for graduates to have across the state. Then if you flip the page, I was provided with, actually at WASDA, this report was referenced for Skill Up for Our Future. And so it was a research project that was designed to look at job openings in the future and what are going to be the requirements. And you can see it that 75 in this big bold piece, 75% of 1.5 million plus jobs will require post-secondary credentials, right? And we know that our students have all kinds of avenues, from the workforce to the trades, to a trade school, to a community college, to the armed forces, to four-year colleges, like our kids, and we collect and we save that data over time. So we know that the kids go all places. But at the end of the day, where do we want our DPSD graduates to be so that they can be successful beyond high school, right? So that's something for us to think about, and that will help direct our goals and trickle down. We have our goals, but it'll be a bottom-up, top-down type piece. What's the difference between the goals and a strategic plan? The strategic plan is really that 6 to 8 year vision for the district and where we want to go. So you can keep reading this. The other thing, and I don't have the information quite yet, when I attended the Greater Spokane Incorporated and we were down at the Spokane Workforce, that was a lot of new learning. I provided you some links in last week's update. But the Spokane Workforce, one of the folks actually did an analysis of data for Spokane's region and where the top jobs were and what the greatest needs were going to be. The greatest need was healthcare. Mm-hmm. So as we're looking to the future for our kids and making sure that they become productive citizens, where is it that what can we look at, right, as a district? So just providing foundational information for you guys as we look into the strategic planning process.
It's interesting to see some of the stats that come across at work and some of the things that are, we can't hire enough foresters. We can't hire enough the people that I deal with. And then my wife, this pharmacist, she says, if Walgreens follow their business plan, they could hire every pharmacist coming out of school, just them, from every school in the U.S. and not have enough. Mm-hmm. So that shows you where all the rest of the people lay in there. So
education, mental health is also up there in forecasting for the future. So if that's something that we want to spend some work time on, we certainly can. It's up to you guys.
We talked about doing a retreat work session, like in January sometime. Is there a Saturday morning where you guys have basketball, wrestling, and then Sunday's church? Maybe an evening, like 4 hours in the evening or some couple 4-hour blocks, and we can do it. I would like to do some board education again because we need to keep up on that. And maybe at that point in time, we could integrate the strategic planning process into our board education to do that. Is that something we might be able to?
Absolutely. And I'm curious in terms of what kinds of topics you are interested in. One of my thoughts was around strategic planning and wrapping our heads around that. And it's not board education, so to speak, but we talked about reading the book and having a discussion about the book that everybody read. Also talked about the WASDA self-assessment piece and looking at that data and figuring out, board goals. And then, are you interested in instructional learning? One of the things that we're really looking at as a district and as a whole is this idea of inclusionary practices and how we make sure that all students belong and are integrated as a part of the general education setting. Well, there's some good new reports out from OSPI. There's some good data, some good research. Are you interested in instructional learning? So those are some ideas that I had in terms of what could put, it's not board education, so to speak, but it's board work and educating the board.
Yep. Okay, would everybody be able to do something like that in January? I don't know if their work schedule.
On weekends are totally open, in terms of that, so I can schedule around that.
Okay, and then do you guys have home games or everything's booked up? Saturday
Schedule, but we can.
Like Saturday afternoons, would that work? Jerry?
Weekday evenings are better.
If we come up with a couple dates, we can ship them out to everybody and see if they work. But you don't work. Well, you can't make-
Weekday evenings never work.
Okay.
Well, Martin Luther King Day is that one Monday in January.
Right, unless it's
We did it last year.
holiday.
Yeah, we did it last year.
I don't want to take everybody's MLK Day away, but I would like to have some board training and workshop. Is anybody against doing it on MLK Day? There we go. We got a day. Let's plan on that day. Maybe start like 9 o'clock or something.
20th.
I don't know what's early for you folks. I get up at 5, so.
Have to work that.
The federal holiday.
Good question.
Yeah, but she doesn't work for the state of the feds.
Oh,
No, let me.
I've had to work on that day too, so. Well, look into that. If so, then we'll try and get a day that works for everybody, maybe weekend evenings might be.
yeah. Evenings are hard for, I think, games, people who work.
Or if you do it not in the middle, I can work early, that kind of thing, or I can come to this and then on MLK Day.
Okay,
If I'm working, if I have to work that day, I just don't put it right in the middle of the day is my preference.
okay.
But
So if we-
Then 2 o'clock, 1 o'clock, I can work early morning to noon.
So if we did it like
Lunch.
start at lunch,
At noon.
at least get
As long as I
like
can-
5 hours.
We can
in.
eat
Huh?
12 to 5.
Yeah,
There we go. That'd
That'd be good.
they're good to everybody. Thank you.
Do you have a particular topic?
Well, like I said, I'd like to start I want to do the book, go through the book. How not to be a terrible school how not to be a terrible school Saturday. But, yeah, we should all have read it by then and we'll just plan, that can be our thing and we can discuss, if we have extra time, talk about the strategic planning process, and kicking that off and everything.
I expect some kind of presentation on MLK though, just honor the day, so.
Okay,
You get to put it on.
All right.
all right. Okay.
All right. Next is just wanted to give you a panorama update. So we did the panorama survey. I think that I've shared with you that the health of Deer Park School District and knowing the culture, climate, belonging, and safety is really important to me. And so we hear anecdotal notes here and there, but really didn't have any data to back it up. So wanted that 360 review. It was the first time that we completed it, closed right before Thanksgiving. Principals will be getting their individual school data tomorrow, so they haven't seen their individual schools yet. I just have the high level district overview. So I'm going to give principals an opportunity to sift through their data, look at their data, and then January is when they'll begin figuring out a plan for how they want to share the data. But short of that, I wanted to just share with you. So the timeline we gave it in fall this time, we talked about before that these are comprehensive insights. It's going to be able to track the data over time. They're research-based questions. And the information that we receive, I probably have enough for everybody too. The information that we receive is can be tracked online. So the goal and purpose was related to goal 2, which was around our school climate, belonging, safety. And then we administered it this fall, and then I'd like to do another follow-up in spring. So if we look at, and you flip the page, we had 1,200 students take the survey, which is nearly all of them. We did not survey HomeLink students because their parents are the primary educator, not the schools. For staff, we had 122 teachers, 76 school staff. So this is anybody who is part of a school, but not a teacher. There'll be the custodians, paraeducators, secretaries. And then we had 30 district office. So we administered 3 different surveys for the adults. District office is district office, but it could be maintenance of facilities. It could be technology, transportation. We wanted to make sure that everybody had an opportunity to take the survey. So we had 30 responses. Families, unfortunately, even with the reminders, we only had 364 responses. So I would have been hopeful for more. And I sent out a couple reminders, but so if we look at engagement, school climate, sense of belonging, well-being, just a high level overview, you can see that elementary students versus secondary students feel a higher sense of engagement. That's pretty typical based on the age range. For school climate, you can see that 62% of family members responded favorably. Again, 3 through 5 was a little bit higher than 6 through 12. And then school climate, teachers and staff and teachers, and then school staff felt a very, very high percentage positive responses to school climate. In terms of sense of belonging, you can see for students, 3 through 5, again, very, very high. 6 through 12, a little bit lower. Kind of goes with the age. And then well-being this one was centered around teachers, school staff, and district office, very, very positive. And then barriers to engagement. What this means is for the family members survey, these are survey responses that are positive. So positive to the family survey. And barriers to engagement. Family engagement was a little bit lower, but one of our open-ended questions for each of the schools was around how we can get families more engaged and a part. I mean, people who are leading PTO, PTCAs, it's the same parents when I attend those meetings everywhere. And the Roots group, right? So that's one of our goals this year. And then of course the family survey for support's very high. So overall, very favorable, positive responses. I was very, very pleased with the results.
Question, Alexa. I'm looking and thank you. This is great. I love data. But I'm curious as to why we have such a drop in 6 through 12 of doing the survey. Like, what is the difference in how they're conducting the surveys with the grades 3 through 5 and then switching 6 through 12? And maybe it's a question of what's 6 through 8 and what's 9 through 12.
Right. And the schools will get their own individual data to be able to look at. It's normal. There's a drop in 6th grade when they hit middle school and secondary in general when they're in their adolescent stages. Maybe with your own children, you've noticed how they were super excited in elementary school and they couldn't wait to go to school, and they would cry and be sad if they missed a day at school. And then in high school, it's a very different picture. So that's something that the schools will be able to go to individually. And with embedded in each of these questions are several questions, and then we can get the data outlined for those. I just wanted to give you guys the 5,000-foot high-level view of where we came out. Overall, pretty healthy. Yes, there's always areas to grow and improve. And so principals will have an opportunity to look at that data tomorrow.
When we had Adam Spinard out, him and I were talking, and their strategic plan thing is something for every kid.
Mhm.
I mean, I think that is something that we could embrace here, be it band or FFA or football or basketball, whatever it is, one thing for you.
Yep.
And hopefully multiple things for you, but I think that's the way we could get kids involved. And I thought that was a really good, Spokane Public Schools is doing that. So
I like that. And I remember him saying he wanted every kid in an after school activity.
yes, that's, yeah.
And our numbers are speaking to the fact that people are feeling alone.
Yeah.
The numbers are volleyball, the numbers are wrestling.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have like the highest number of students participating in athletics, I think, than ever, which is awesome.
Cool.
Okay, so that was that. With my double glasses.
Yeah. Do you want another pair?
What's that?
Would you like another?
These are not progressive. So then the Facilities Advisory Committee, we met on Monday, December 2nd. Corey Plager visited and provided current and historical numbers. Great turnout. There were 26 individuals present. Just as a side note, I am in the process of creating a website to memorialize the process, the meetings, and the progress. They are not, I know there was a question about it being recorded. It's not a board meeting, and so they're just individuals coming to attend to brainstorm. So that is why it's not recorded. They don't know it. I haven't been given permission by the attendees, but it was live in a webinar for people to tune in. So that's one way we can memorialize the process is creating a website. So that's in the process. Some of my notes that I had and questions were, how many homes are being built within the whole district, not just within city limits? Have we considered a remodel for the Arcadia expansion, including the expansion of the gym? The years on the bond were expressed as a concern. People want us for us to consider the rate, interest, and amount. Would like estimates shown on the websites and how we got those numbers. We're working on this with the architects. Want detailed cost of our estimates. Pull previous numbers from other meetings. And then some of the group options that they talked about, I presented your options that you guys came up with and said, here's the board started generating ideas and options for discussion. One of them was around, actually, most of them were somewhere around a 5 to 6 year capital levy, with the priorities really being on the buying of the land and the building of the road, the transportation center, track and field, and then running the bond after the capital levy falls off. There were some discussions around options and looking at what happens with Arcadia as it becomes overflowing. Looking at a short-term fix for Arcadian renovation, what that might look like in the process. Looking at a levy 5 to 6 years. One of them said, how do we borrow some money and do some projects, and suggested a design build versus a design bid build. Luckily, he was talking with Steve and they had that conversation. Capital, I heard as a theme, and those of you who are present, feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, but that the capital levy to obtain the 50% is attainable, right? And the bond, we know that the first bond is going to fall off at the end of this year. The next part of the high school bond is falling off next December. It's an option and it was expressed, but they also know that we were one of the lowest of all the people who ran the bonds. We were one of the lowest at a 51% plus passage rate, and we need a 60% approval. So I think for next steps, we really want to prioritize the projects. We have a lot of projects to consider. We want to look at the Facility Advisory Committee's recommendations, look at the costs, consider what we have saved in capital projects. I really heard buy the land as the first priority and really securing that because of the growth.
Yeah.
So yes, might have been in touch with the city already. There's also a request for flow analytics. Just as a reminder, we just did it 3 years ago. And at that point, it cost almost $30,000. I had actually been in touch with them again in July, and their new estimate was $19,000. I personally don't feel like that's a good investment of our money to turn around and do it. When we analyze their projected versus our current, they were only 12 students short. So that's our current, right? And it was only done 3 years ago. So I just wanted to give you that update with their projection, where we're at, and the costs associated with that. So then thinking about if the land is important, the road is important, and the transportation center is important, that's what I heard. Then like, what's next? The track and field, and I'm renaming it. I had some feedback to not call it the athletics complex because it was very confusing. So just calling it what it is, it's track and field. That's it, right? Is it looking at Arcadia? I want you to know too, that at a recent meeting I was at, that SCAP is slowly drifting away. Bonds aren't passing. So the state is lowering the budget. It was at about $300 million and it's going down. So I'm sorry, the budget was lowered from the state for SCAP by $300 million. So it's going to continue to go down, just as a fact.
Isn't that by law? They have to provide that.
They have some, but it's in the law that they've reduced it. Bonds aren't passing.
No, I know, but if we were to pass a bond, don't they have to provide it?
Not at the same rate as what they have. They've already lowered it.
Good.
let's see here. So just other capital projects in the works, just so that you know, the security cameras, the system is out for bid and they're working on 3 quotes. I think we got one back today. Why is it that we want to do the work ourselves? Because it's cost effective. It's efficient because our folks already know our buildings and know the wirings and all the systems and where the MDF places are. Also, we don't have the money to outbid it. It would come in at about $500,000. And then right now we have a quote out for the cost of the cameras. And I was trying to think of the best analogy to explain the whole camera systems piece. I think it would be like if you had an internal infection in your body and you ended up getting like sores on the outside of your body and you started like treating each sore individually. Those are our cameras, but you're not getting to the heart and the nucleus of the problem. And the heart and the nucleus of the problem is the camera system. Our cameras can't, the bandwidth that we have is not enough. And so that's why our cameras aren't very good right now, because they don't have the storage, they don't have the bandwidth, plus they're old. So it's a whole systems issue that needs to be rebooted. It can't just be individual cameras. So when I kept saying systems, I needed to come up with an analogy like it's a system. We have to get to the root cause, which is the system, if that makes sense. Okay. The other thing, in terms of capital projects updates, we're going to give some attention to Clayton Homelink. The kitchen is falling apart, and we know that they've got culinary classes in there like every day. So they're going to be doing a $30,000 renovation and update in that. And then they're also going to be working on the storage unit up in Clayton, which is another $30,000 that they're working on too. So they're going to be working on that probably over the summer. Those are highest priority according to our facilities and maintenance team, and that they need to be attended to. The other thing that we're working on here in the district office, I don't know if you're aware, but I think since 2018, there have been about 22 new legislative imposements on education, right? And if everything goes as planned this year, there will be another 8. Well, we have not increased with district office staffing to help absorb those. Many of us in the district office wear many, many different hats. So we're at this, what they call in the IT world, a pain point, where we're going to have to look at adding some personnel, adding some support. I would also say we've grown by 200 students since Travis left. And so we're also growing. And so just the sheer volume. And so we're needing to rethink district office. Way back when admin space had given Homelink another space, it happened to be down across the way from the special education room. So we've been needing another space. Anya's separated from us right now. We've got an intern helping with special services who doesn't have a space. So we need to do some readjusting within, potentially even looking at, adding some personnel to support district office in the future. And so we are going to be taking back that space that is right next door to district office. Back when we started this conversation, it was just a reading room. So it was only one class that was going to be shifted. I didn't know that they have now added 6 or 7 classes in there. That was new news to me. So I'm going to be addressing that with Homelink too, but it's already in progress and in process. So eventually what's going to happen is that other little side boardroom that we have will become my office. My office will become somebody else's. And
We can just use this.
well, we'll have a little workroom back there.
Oh,
For work sessions and those kinds of things, but we just need another space. And we wanted to take one space that we initially had back, but I wanted to give you guys a heads up in case you hear of anything or why. But the planning process started last spring. Like I said, when there was one class in there and we worked with them, and then something changed and happened, starting in August or September that we weren't aware of. So something happened with communication along the way. Then I think if we want to come back to, and Eric, I'll let this be you. I don't know if you want to continue the capital projects discussion later during discussion, or if you want to have it now, or
it's on the agenda for later, so let's
Okay.
just pick it up later.
I think that's all I have.
All right. Thank you.
A couple questions for you. Do we have somebody unauthorized on top of the high school roof?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay, so I'm just squashing on a rumor. I heard that someone had gotten on the high school roof.
I can-
Unauthorized. And I thought if that
Today?
no, last week or the week before. I thought if it happened, we would have heard from you. So I didn't act on it because I didn't think that you would have sent something out. We had a cheerleader go to Hawaii.
Yeah. We
Okay.
did.
Do we approve that travel? How does that work?
It's not a school sponsored activity. She actually is going on her own for UCA. She was nominated over the summer.
Oh, she did. So we didn't have to fund her?
Mm-mm.
Okay. Well, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Not that I'm aware of, because it would have come to the board.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's just for one, it wasn't the whole team.
Right, exactly. It is. Leagues at Arcadia. In the
Yep,
gym.
yep,
Has that been an ongoing
Yep.
issue?
yep. It's not new. And it's only when, in fact, when we reconvene with facilities, it's when it either snows heavily or rains very heavily. It's
How
been
long
going,
has this been going on, do you know?
Steve said 30 years.
30
Talked to
years?
him after the thing.
Did you know about it?
I did not know about that at the time.
I didn't
But I
either.
talked to him after the
Yeah.
facilities committee meeting. And he said, it's not the roof. The roof is fine. It is the air handler unit, the way it's built and the way it's prescribed. He said they've tried
Channels of water
Tons
the
of-
wrong way.
it. Well, when the wind blows it in,
Yeah,
yes,
it blows the wind, it blows the rain inside the air handler and it comes out of vents.
right.
It doesn't come out of the.
Yeah, so the
ceiling,
water's
so-
coming through the air system.
Yes, he said they've attempted bazillion things to try and get it fixed, and it's just the handler. It's the wind spill. So
yeah, we talked about that this morning.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Did you want to share the legislative?
Oh, that's right. Go ahead. Sure. Last Thursday, Craig joined me at New Wausau. We do every year, the superintendents get together with regional representatives. And Craig, as the ledge rep, joined me. We joined Shelley Short's session. And yeah, I thought I put in my notes. Thank you for reminding me. And what I really just appreciated about Shelley is she listens. She knows a lot about education. I mean, she was very well versed on the big three. She had information and data. She goes out to schools and visits. And now that we've got 2 new legislators in our area, she suggested in spring, after the session closes, that we invite her out to come in and visit and tour our schools, which we would love to do. Hunter Abel and Andrew Engel are the other 2 new ones. And I was really appreciative of her listening and her knowledge of what's happening in the schools, her knowledge of the wishes and desires and wants of this community. She was also really appreciative of the letter and the fact that we were actually putting something in writing as an action for the legislative body. Yeah, and she just expressed that education is one of many, many, many other items that they discuss on the table. And I think that you all probably know by now that the state of Washington is in a budget deficit. So anything else to add?
Yeah.
Craig had some good questions in there.
Yeah. She shared the letters that we drafted, about the transgender athlete topic. Anyway, she was able to share that directly with Shelley, gave her the letters, which was awesome. So as we've been to the legislative, it was the day on the Hill, right? If you remember last year, I don't think you were there
My
last year.
wife was sick.
Your wife was sick. If you remember, we just had a brief moment just to just spew all over them our interests. And you don't really feel like you get to connect. But with this, we got to sit there for a good half an hour, just have back and forth dialogue. We even went around the room and just kind of shared personal interests and stuff like that. But we got to talk about the big 3 topics, which are special education, transportation,
And socks.
and I just want to say as to the board and to our community that as I sat there as a board member with all the superintendents, how many were there? About 50 or so?
There's 59 in our region
was a lot.
that make up New Wausau.
There was a lot sitting around there. And I don't think I'm biased in saying this, but I was just super proud that Alexa is our superintendent. Because in my mind, she stood leagues above the others, which were all great too. And they all care about education. They all care about kids. But the way that Alexa conducted herself in that group, just she was just very friendly, very knowledgeable, just, connecting with Shelley. Anyway, I just think we're very blessed to have Alexa as superintendent. I think we need to do everything we can to support her and to help her in her goals, because we are blessed to have her. So
Thank you. Thanks for
Oh.
reminding me, but that's not what I was looking for. I
No.
forgot that part of the
no,
update.
that's just what struck me. Is just, again, great people, but we just have an awesome superintendent. I also had the opportunity to share Sophia's story with Shelley. Give a little anecdote about Sophia and her journey through the special education system and just how important those programs are, especially the unified sports. That's one thing everybody agreed upon was unified sports are huge. We should support those financially and hopefully get some more funding for that. So,
Thanks for joining me.
yeah, that was great.
Thank you both. All right. Anything else, man?
Nope.
All right, consent agenda items.
Oh, I had a couple more questions.
Sorry.
The new camera system when we did our tour at Arcadia,
Mhm.
and it came up that we had put a new camera system in.
We are out for bid currently.
No, but did we already put one in and there was some announcement in the springtime?
There might have been new cameras that we
Right.
put in, but not a new system.
Right, I knew the new system, but there were cameras put in?
I believe there were some.
Okay,
Yes.
at Arcadia?
Yes.
Okay,
I believe that was last spring.
yes, there was something, okay. The vaping system, is it working?
It's a work in progress. And yes, we're working on getting it working.
But it's not working at the current,
The high school, so they're trying to find the sensitivity. This is what I heard last. They're trying to find the sensitivity level. The high school was like overly, what's the word? Triggered?
Sensitive.
Yes, overly sensitive. And then they were being triggered a lot. Middle school, not so much. But then they went back and they did some more testing. So they're, it's a new product. So they're trying to make sure that that is calibrated. I think that everything is up and working now.
okay.
I would also say that's a part of the camera system piece, right? So the question is, now that we have these vape sensors, do we want it to integrate with the camera system so you can see who's walking into the bathroom right before the vape is triggered? It helps with their investigation, but that's a part of the camera system piece that they're working through to try to determine. Because it's all one system, right?
But we're not getting charged by the company that installed it, right? To keep fixing it
Oh, no. Yeah, it would be under,
under their contract?
correct,
They've already been paid.
correct. That's
Okay.
my understanding.
Okay,
And I think it's a multi-year contract.
Oh, is it?
I'd have to double
Okay.
check on that. We have the option. You can either buy the whole system up front for like the next 5 years, or you can pay for it annually. We did one of the two, whichever was the better deal.
right.
Okay, consent agenda. Has everybody had a chance to review the consent agenda? All right, I'd ask for a motion, please. All right, discussion.
I have some discussion on it.
Okay,
So I looked at the minutes. And under the superintendent's report, we have Carrie reporting the details of the transportation funding, headcount and such. Also within there, she had talked about address the false accusations in a letter circulating in the community aimed at the superintendent regarding. So what letter was she referring to?
I don't know. That's what she said.
So putting this in the minutes, this is hearsay.
That's
This
what
is
she said.
unfounded. So, well, I just find it very ironic that this has a lot of detail in the minutes, but yet we can't capture that kind of detail in other important discussions like the bond. So the previous meeting, we all sat for like over an hour and talked about, I think I came up with the transportation by the land idea. Rebecca came up with maybe we get the transportation of the road in half of half of the school. And I think there were 2 or 3 others. I think Craig, you even, I think, had an idea. And yet that didn't be recorded. The only thing that was recorded in those minutes was Facilities Advisory Committee will convene before winter break. It didn't even show.
So is there something you
So
think
what
is
I'm trying
wrong
to
with the minutes?
Well-
Because we voted in April of last year to stay with the minutes. You have repeatedly brought up that you don't like how the minutes are done, how the minutes are detailed or anything like that. So unless you can show me something that is wrong with the minutes, we're not going to
Right now,
discuss.
I did discuss that. I feel that that line in there talking about is hearsay, and I think
Well,
that,
Jerry, what's the difference? So it's a regular meeting, right? Minutes of the regular meeting. You just brought up conversation that we had during a work session. Those are different things.
And different people read.
So the notes are going to be taken differently for a work session than they would for a regular session.
okay, so let me ask a little bit about the process. So when the minutes are taken and before they're published, do you review them?
And so do I.
You do too?
Yep.
You do. Before it's
Before
put
they're
on the
brought to
website?
here. No, we have to approve them before they're put on the
Do you-
website.
When you see them for the first time, when you click on the link to go to the consent
No, I
items,
see them before that.
you do.
Yes,
You
I
review
review them.
Okay. And you do.
As do I.
Okay.
And if there's something wrong at that point, like blatant sticking out, then we ask Joanne to change it. But
Okay.
then we bring them here. And if there is a certain thing that is wrong with the minutes, that you can say this did not happen, or I didn't say this, or whatever, then that's fine. But
Okay.
generalities,
Well, I think there should be consistency,
and I
and
think
the amount
there
of
is.
detail that are on major topics
Okay.
should be equivalent. And are talking about the bond and us
Okay.
coming up, that
Thank
should,
you.
okay?
So I think there's one more thing that could have stated. So you guys, you and Alexa, review it.
Yep.
And then it's printed and then it's sent out to all of us
Yep.
forward. That's quite exciting. And that's where like, I made comments this weekend of which I had there when I comment. So I'm really glad I made a comment on Friday or Saturday when I reviewed it. And then you kindly corrected me and like, oh yeah, it's right there. And so that way, if there is a discussion point and what I could do instead is send it to Eric and Alexa, then they review it and check it and see if it needs to be updated before tonight's meeting.
Yep.
So that's my understanding of the
How things should
process.
happen.
And so it's like, if it was tonight, it'd be like, I move or I amend this sentence by this, right? Oh, actually, Lindsay made the motion instead of me. But other than that, my understanding is that our time to review, Eric, correct me if I'm wrong, is over the weekend. Get it over so they can review or comment, and then it should be efficient during the meeting.
Yes.
So another point of interest was we had the policies over the past 2 or 3 board meetings. I had comments at the November 12th, and I brought them again forward at the last board meeting.
Mhm.
And then you said, well, this first time I heard about it, I actually had discussed the same comments at 2 different board meetings. And so we pressed on. So my guess is where's the process broke down where a board member makes comments on the policies and they're not recorded
Did
in
you
the
give,
updated.
did you give comment?
I gave them at the meeting
To-
for us to discuss. And so one of them was the sexual policy, what was the one that Lindsay and I and Rebecca all had the same, like that sentence.
And they
It didn't make
changed.
sense, right? So that was the 3 of us did make that change. But I had other comments on other policies and I repeated them at the second board meeting and I got overruled that you had never heard from it. You had never heard them before, but yet I had discussed them the previous board. So nobody came with the policy with those red lines for the ones for the next board.
If you give them to us, we give them to Alexa, and she, at that point in time, can look at them. But if you have the first meeting, the first read, you bring your topics, you bring things you want to change. And then we work through that at that time on the first read. If it makes it to the second read, then we should have made it through all those changes. Right? And then you brought the topics up. Lindsay made a motion, I believe, last time to approve what was as written, and we voted on that. Okay, so
All
I
right.
don't think the process is broken. Like,
I feel it is. I feel there's not a feedback loop. In fact, one of the policies that I talked about was the feedback loop between this board and the superintendent back to this board on issues that come forward to this board. So when we've had families come to this board with bullying and accessibility to the facilities, I didn't feel that there was a feedback system back to this board. And so that kind of proves the point that as I was trying to show there was a hole in the way we process issues with the public, that we did not have a feedback. And so when I got overruled on that discussion,
Which is part of being a board member,
right?
because,
so
because we,
105,
we disagree.
That's fine.
Yeah.
But,
Right.
but,
So that's
But it was
that's
like-
where it ends.
okay. So,
Jerry, can I add that there are certain policies that the board does get involved in? They're outlined in the policies and procedures. One is non-discrimination. Another one is HIB. Another one is the choice appeals that you guys have had. So there's certain policies and procedures to which the board then gets involved. But those are outlined in the policies and procedures. On a day-to-day complaint, the board is not involved because the expectation is that the buildings handle it at the building level, or that I handle it at my level. When it comes to the appeals process, right, which I know you guys have sat in some choice appeals processes, those processes are outlined with timelines in HIB, in non-discrimination, in choice transfer, in sexual harassment. And that's then when the board is given a copy of the policy and procedure for the appeals process.
so we have a motion on the floor for approval of consent agenda. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
opposed.
Okay. Thank you. All right. Board discussion is our next thing. I want to add one little thing there. We brought up the letters to our, to OSPI and to. So we approved the one last month for the going to the legislators, and then we have OSPI and I don't know.
WIAA.
WIA, thank you.
And I will also pass around during board discussion. There was an amendment made from Linden School District. So this is their final. You can just take it. I'd like to pass it around so you can read their amendments. They made an amendment to the amendment.
May I ask, are my little simple comments incorporated in here, or do I need to put my email and try to?
Yours that you emailed me about were making sure that we cited the RCW.
Not the
Right.
first time, but the one I just.
That's where's it go?
The one that you just
One
sent me,
person.
we've already sent to the legislators.
Thank you. And thank you for the.
Okay, so we were asked to bring any comments that we had about the letters last time to tonight. So if we can go over those quickly, or go ahead. So we'll start out with the WIAA one. So questions, concerns?
I have some red lines in it. But first question was the letter, who wrote this letter? Did you write both letters? Who wrote this one
Alexa wrote these letters for us.
for us?
As secretary of the board, I hope to support
yes.
the writing.
Okay.
We collaborated on it, but she did the majority.
So I like the superintendent of public instruction letter. Didn't have any changes at all. I thought we handled what we said to them in a nice, strong way without infringing on their responsibilities. I had more changes on this based on what I said last time. So I guess I can kind of read through my red lines, or sure. Okay. So I think you guys, apparently it looks like you did take my comment to heart that we are actually to protect all athletes.
I did
Is the
add
first
that
line?
in. I did.
Okay, thank you, because I think that sets the tone that because then all of a sudden now you're going down.
That's the general premise that the whole letter is written, that we want to support all athletes. This letter is specifically for
Yes. So I appreciate
female
that,
athletes.
that you guys made that. So I had added urges the WIAA to continue to protect because they are, in fact, doing a good job. And so they're not stopping to protect them. So I think to continue gives them the face that they are. I changed it specifically to, in particular, the recent actions, and we can go on, that are centered at our female athletes. So what it basically said is we protect all athletes, but in particular, the recent actions that are targeted, or however, softly we say that at our female. Then I took out, as a school board, because we had already said we were the Deer Park School Board. That's redundant. So I said, we are gravely concerned about the safety of our female athletes, and we are writing to express our thoughts and recommendations regarding the proposed amendments to WA 18660. Gender identification petition by 2 Washington State school districts. I think we need to name the 2 schools because then it leaves it hanging on who you're talking about. And then whoever gets this for the first time, they're going to go, what schools? So they can go research.
That is WIAA. So they,
2 amendments proposed.
Right. But we should name the schools where they came from. So the people who read this for the first time, they go, well, who? You have no clue. So you have to.
You wanted to say specifically female athletes. So we do that in the front first thing. You're just reworking
the semantics of the sentence. Yeah. I said in particular, right? I think it's a little smoother. You guys can take it like it. And then it says and then I added to the end of the sentence because I don't know if this.
Which sentence?
Submitted by 2 Washington State school districts, which
Linden and Eastmont.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which may jeopardize the safety of our female athletes. Is that a true statement?
What?
May jeopardize the safety of our female athletes.
Their recommendation is what we're trying to.
Right. So are we against this policy, correct? So we feel this policy as written hurts us.
We want them to consider the proposed amendments to that thing.
To that policy. Right. So which I feel we need to say jeopardizes, demoralizes, whatever words.
Right here it says we are gravely concerned about the safety of our female athletes.
Right. Okay, I agree. Okay.
I like the Eastmont Linden.
Okay, we can. Are you following? You could probably.
Well, I'm going to need that when you're done.
I'll give it to you.
Please.
Okay. And then in the second paragraph, our board was firmly committed to ensuring that all students, I would move the irregardless of gender, identity, expression, or sex up right behind the students so that is identified that these students, regardless of their gender, instead of waiting to the end of the sentence. So that's the only change I had on that. I had no changes to the third paragraph. We acknowledge that any amendments must be aligned with and comply with state law. However, keep in mind, and this is the new, keep in mind that any measure to put in place must not violate existing Washington laws or cause reverse discrimination, or however words we use there. And that was my changes.
Thank you. This is how I get the changes made, by the way. I need like tangible.
Can we discuss some of those changes before we do that? Because the last one, do you want to hand that back?
Sure. So you can see.
Yeah. There you go. Keep in mind, we're not to violate existing Washington law. I don't think we need that. Because it says right in here that we know that we can't break law. And we're not telling them to break it. We're asking them to consider a thing. And I think that just makes it's more verbose, but it does gets to the same.
So one is them not creating policies that violate the law. This is to talk about other laws that are already in place. So as they try to put in a measure based on the new law, but
we're not asking them to make a new law.
I'm not asking them to. I says keep in mind that whatever policy you put in place, it must not violate existing Washington laws.
they know.
Okay.
Yeah, but
Well, maybe there's a combination of those two
Well,
paragraphs.
here's what I keep going back to. So, I mean, you had some legal help, right? In the language of the
Yeah.
way this was drafted, correct?
yes,
I think what it comes down to is we just need to trust Alexa as our superintendent, because I think that's a big part of our job. We've hired Alexa, and along with that should come a big level of trust. If we don't trust her, why the hell is she here? Second, if we're using legal help to draft up this letter, I really caution against changing some of the language, because those are things that from a legal level that they would have considered.
yes.
And so ultimately we should trust that as well. Some of the minor ticky-tack changes, sure, whatever, if you want, but I think we just need to trust the process.
And
Yeah.
the lawyer did say that they were extremely impressed with the letter, the way it was written and how it was done. I think adding the 2 districts, but there's only 2 that are out there.
So,
There's about 5
as,
different ways we can
so you
reword it.
were elected official.
Yeah.
I'm an elected official.
Correct.
Eric's an elected official.
Correct.
There's 5 of us.
Yeah.
Each have our input.
That's
We
your
were
input. This is
asked-
my input.
Okay, that's your input, right? But you're trying to diminish my input.
I'm trying to share my input. That's
You
my-
are,
that's my-
but basically
I'm
trying
trying to
to.
stop my speech. That's my free speech.
Okay, your free speech is fine,
So
but
is yours.
I
The thing is, I
get a
don't
right to
want,
speak. And you trying to diminish my
I
input.
just disagree.
Okay.
and I don't want to change all of this. I think putting those in there is good, but the rest of it's already been through legal review. If it was like a word here and there or whatever, but rewriting the sentences and adding a bunch of stuff, I think would be counterproductive. We would
We
send
could
it back.
compromise the legal
to-
integrity of the document.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
That's my opinion.
can we, I guess. of
So
all the-
here's where I'm going to be on the final. So if you don't, are we going to have another draft? Are you insisting we don't have another draft?
I don't think we have time,
So,
right?
So we were
I was
asked to
trying
bring
to-
comments.
yes,
now
and I
we're
was
gonna-
trying to talk about your comments about before we send them to have Alexa change them. Okay, you make comments. I thought it was written well. I wouldn't change anything.
This
So
letter
then we have,
is
well,
written well.
so is this
I
one.
had no changes to this one.
But those
this
are
one I
your
did.
suggestions, and I disagree with most of those suggestions. That's why we were discussing it. Craig disagrees, sounds like, with most of them.
Then if you go ahead and approve it, remove my name from the letter. I will not have my
Okay,
name
you're-
on this letter.
You are part of a board. You are one of 5.
I will not have,
If we vote
this is a
to
letter.
do the things,
It's not a resolution. It's not an amendment. It's not a consented agenda item. It's a letter. And if you feel you all support it, that's fine. Then you have your name on it. My name will not be on this letter unless I approve it. So unless there's another draft that's going to come through, and I'll
So-
take a look at it.
so
I will
if
not
we
approve it.
make those changes, that's what I'm suggesting, we're putting Eastmont Linden on there. Is the rest of the letter wrong? Do you totally disagree with that, with the way it's written? You wanted to add a bunch of verbiage and change verbs, change things on there.
I want to make it a strong letter like this
I
one.
think it's extremely strong.
I don't. That's where we're at.
Stand back in my look.
Sure.
And I think some of yours are transition sentences, like in particular, or specifically, or something like that don't change the connotation of the letter itself. But remember, the purpose of that letter is simply asking WIAA to consider the proposed amendments. That's the sole purpose of that letter. And then, the OSPI letter is written. And then the letter to the legislators is to look at the current laws. One is redundant because they have the non-discrimination law, and then they have a transgender law, but they don't have a law for every single named protected class, just transgender. So the board's take on that was that's a redundant law, right? Also, the board for an RCW has been given local authority to make decisions. So OSPI, back to the OSPI letter, has overstepped their bounds by telling the school board how to implement the non-discrimination laws. So that's what the letter to the legislators was. So each of them actually have a different purpose. So maybe that helps.
If you don't mind, but people,
Please.
so in my opinion, the ones I strongly, because I asked for the Linden and Eastmont last time, I agree with that. I also am good with moving them regardless of their gender identity and put that in the middle. I find that sounds good for semantics. I'm not in favor. I don't want to add this sentence down here to this. I think it's convoluted and it's confusing. Sure, we can take off we and change that to we if we want instead of their part school, but this part over here, I would not. I wouldn't be doing that either. So there's part of it. Again, like Eric, I'm with you, Linden and Eastmont, and then if you want to change the regardless of gender identity or area, that's fine. And I don't, Lindsay, do you have anything?
No, I agree. That last one was concerning.
So it's just the last sentence.
No, well, my opinion, the Linden and Eastmont adding, and then if we want it.
Well, the one that,
If we can take out this last line, that was just,
so if we have
can take that
Eastmont
out.
Linden, we move the regardless of gender identity expression up to there. Everybody's good with this?
I'd like to have something, what do you guys say? Let me read this again.
In my opinion, sometimes less is more.
Yes.
And so I believe that the sentences that we have in here are adequate and they are more than adequate. They're strong. And they're non-confusing. I think it's great. And I'm
Okay.
thankful.
So I think there's, as I read this, you guys are saying we acknowledge any amendments must align with, comply with state law.
Yep.
So I think that could be a little stronger because it's comply with, well, yeah, I think that line could be a little stronger. That's probably why I came up with Howard. Keep in mind that any measures put in place must not violate existing laws.
It's kind of saying the same.
It does, but I think that's why I wrote that because it needs to be a little stronger. That's why I wrote that.
I mean, that's pretty strong. Can't break straight state law.
Well, I'll tell you what, if you guys sort of add comply with the existing state laws.
Well, what about new laws? We can't have any other, if they make another law, it can't break, we can't do whatever they do can't
However
break
you want
state
us-
laws. So
okay.
it just says state law. That way we're covering everything in.
Past, present, and future.
I just didn't feel that sentence was strong enough. That was my input.
Okay, so can we agree that we add Eastmont and Linden, we move the gender, regardless of gender identity expression or sex, up to the top line?
Yep.
And we're good with that?
We scratch out the as a school board. That's redundant. Rebecca, agree
But we're-
with that?
I said either way. I mean, I
Yeah.
like stating it's us that's doing it again, but
Yeah,
It's like, it's redundant.
Because it's also a statement for the community as well,
yeah.
that we.
Because you already said in the first line, I guess got to say it twice. One sentence, I'm a student on the school board.
Board
I'm
of
a school board.
directors.
Why don't we say the third line?
Sure, why not?
Okay,
Let's do it.
okay,
How
yeah.
about fourth? How about
Sure.
fourth? Great.
Let's know how good we're with our English.
all right. If that's a semantical thing, I think we leave it as is.
I move that we amend the letter with adding Linden Eastmont and modifying the sentence regardless of their gender identity up to the middle of the sentence, second paragraphs of the first sentence.
All right, any further discussion on that letter? All right, all those in favor say aye.
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 All right, motion passes.
So there's
Now,
two things I'm making edits to. Thank you. I just need one person's
just hand,
handwritten note. Thank
I
you.
just moved that thing up. All right, so the OSPI letter, is there any discussion about that one?
Move to approve as written.
All right. All right, further discussion? All right. Thank you. Oh, all those in favor say aye. Nope, hold it, sorry.
One has December 9th and one has December 10th. We could match the date.
Fix the dates.
Okay.
Sorry.
Well, I didn't know if that was because you wanted to have one letter for one day and the next letter for the second day.
And I will sign them and Alexa can distribute them out. Okay. All right, all those in favor say aye for OSPI.
Aye.
Aye.
All right, motion passes. Thank you.
So everybody's good with both letters now with the
Yep.
edits.
Yes.
With those
Thank you.
votes.
Yep.
I just want to make sure I'm following.
All right,
Thanks.
thank you. Oops, sorry. All right.
Aren't you
Capital
guys glad
projects
that I
planning.
suggested that we do letters instead of a resolution?
Sure, I don't remember that, but thank you.
Yes,
You
it
did.
was my idea. I was the one that said, I don't want to do anything that breaks the law. And we were meeting on the 12th of November to discuss a resolution to follow suit with the other schools. And that's when I said, I'm not going to support anything that breaks the law, that maybe we should just write a letter. And then Alexa then had said, the feedback from the other superintendents was that the resolutions were probably not the best way to go. Because then they come under fire from OSBI and others. So we, okay?
Sure, I don't remember that, but thank you, you did. All right. Capital projects planning.
Oh, so if we want to, after the facilities advisory committee, also just FYI, we're waiting to hear back from the other groups. This is really hard to read, but this is the new updated numbers with the elementary. You will see that it's gone up because construction costs go up, but that's what we have for the elementary, waiting on transportation center. In this one, on line number 4, I know that it's hard to read. That's the way it printed out because I had to ask also. Number 4 is the offsite improvements allowance. Yeah, so that lands at $5 million. That's the road. So number 4 on here, I actually had to ask the question, where's the road infrastructure? It's number 4 on here. Anyway, new updated numbers for the elementary. Just kind of a recap. The most important from what I heard from Facilities Advisory Committee was securing the land and the purchasing of the land. So I've been in contact with the city of Deer Park about potential options.
I thought you and Eric were going to do that.
This is following the Facilities Advisory
To
Committee.
do it, she met with Tim.
So there's discussion around the capital levy and why a capital levy. One, it helps us continue to move forward. It's achievable. Hopes that it won't let taxes drop. I think the one question was about Arcadia and some questions that came up at Facilities Advisory Committee. Wanted to really just brainstorm and explore options. So what about 5th to middle school? What about 8th to high school? What about adding a wing? What about looking at portables? So 8th to high school has some issues. One, space. There's only 2 classrooms that they're not using. And then once our health teacher comes back, there's only going to be one classroom that's not in use. The lunches would be create a messy schedule because they would have to move to 3 lunches instead of, they have 2 right now. 8th graders get about 15 minutes to eat and then 15 minutes for free play outside. There's no play area at the high school. Just seniors with 8th graders and some of the things that are happening at the high school, like vapes, right? Teachers on a cart. So we would end up with some teachers on a cart, which would have collective bargaining agreement implications. Also, right now, there's room for growth within the schedule and structures that they already have, but adding an entire new grade level with new classrooms and new schedules would create issues and problems. Elective pieces, are they mixed or are they separate? And then there's not an 8th grade wing. Very similar when considering 5th to moving to the middle school. Space is an issue. Just the schedules for the same thing. Specialist schedule, lunch schedule, recess schedule. There's not recess at middle school. They just have the open play area. And then increase in supervision. So that would be an increase in personnel costs. So that would pose some challenges. If we were looking at adding a wing, we would just need to factor in about $450 per square feet, and the cost continues to go up. A portable, could look at temporary, but probably would want to plan for permanent, is, over $500,000 now. So we were really hoping that the bond was going to pass so we could get started on the new elementary to avoid all of these conversations, but they're conversations that we need to have to talk about the growth and what we're going to do at Arcadia. Some other things that came up, plan for a capital levy. you guys need to decide if that's the one, if that's the route you want to go. 2, is it a February or November? Is it a 6-year, 5-year? Is it $1.25? If you do the $1.25 for 6 years, you might recall it ended up at 13.6 million. Levy, we don't get the money until after the cycle, the first year. However, we could look at, and you actually suggested this, the LGO bond, the non-voted debt, which we could buy the land and start the road. We could start on the transportation facility. And then the question mark is what would be the next
But there's a lot of,
priority
for the non-voted debt, there is a lot of
work.
work and a lot of stipulations. You can and can't.
Correct.
And as for.
But we can get
for me,
creative.
Yeah. I'm not big for the non-voted debt.
The capital levy would help pay that
Yes.
back. So we wouldn't do that unless we actually
Unless we
pass
have
the
the
capital levy to be able to repay. It would just allow us to start some of the projects sooner instead of waiting.
But we need to pass that capital levy. before.
Yes, we wouldn't do it without passing the capital levy. At least that would be my recommendation
Yes,
to the board.
but I always thought the levy was education and extra
It's not for
activities.
capital.
That's the EP&O, educational program.
So is there a,
This is
is there
a
a place
capital.
where I can go educate myself on all the different kinds of bonds and levies to find out? Because it seems like we now have all these hybrid options.
WASDA has links to
Does it?
explain.
Each one of those?
Well, there's tech
Okay.
levies, capital projects levies, bonds, and EP&O. That's about it.
Yeah.
And I think Cheney ran like 3. They ran like 2 levies and the bond.
So at the facility advisory committee, we discussed all these things. I asked Alexa to bring up to some of the answers, like moving 8th grade to high school, do that kind of things to us. We're going to have another facilities advisory committee meeting in January.
I
So
kind of wanted to get a sense where you
Yeah.
guys were before having another meeting.
yes. So I mean, we couldn't get support to do the whole project because people apparently didn't like it. They didn't want, first, they didn't want it was too high. Then to bring it down, we had to move it out to 27 years. Then it was too long. So we can't make the building any smaller to do the projects. So splitting it up is a good idea. But at the same point in time, I think we need to think about Arcadia is over full right now. We have portables that have been there for 20 some years and 30 years. Thank you. So think about prioritizing, and I agree 100%. We should need to secure the land and do that piece of it. At the same place, if we push out building a school to 6 more years, it's going to increase the cost. I mean, you can see what the costs went up dramatically in the last 2 years. Plus, we're kicking the can down the road for 6 years.
Mhm.
And what do we do with kids in that time frame? Do we add more portables at $500,000 a piece? Or even if we can put them out there, if we have the infrastructure to do it. Those are things that we need to discuss here. That I agree. It's 100. We need the property. There's no place else to build the school.
So did the city agree to allow us to change the agreement so that we can buy the land?
That resides with the city right now. In
Is
the
it?
process.
So the idea that we championed the other day, that 2 boards ago,
Right now, it's residing with the city.
and then when they're going to review that?
Hopefully sooner than later, but they have been contacted.
Okay. So did I understand correctly that the transportation facility, the road and the land is sort of the main thrust?
From the facilities advisory group, that's what I got.
And that was the idea that I presented to this board back in February. Do you know
Good
that?
job. You want to pat on your back, Jerry?
Yeah, I would like a little pat on the back because I would like to have folks listen. So maybe you could understand where we could go. If you remember when we did that training back in January, where we try to find out where we fit in our niche, Who is your strategic guy?
Okay, point of order. We need to like. get
Okay, well,
on the topic.
We're not looking for pat in the back.
Right.
Or anything, because
Here's the thing. If you want to move forward and you want my buy-in, then you got to keep listening because I have more ideas of how we can fix this. But I don't want to run into the roadblocks where I have to go months discussing the idea and all of a sudden you guys get kicked in the head by a horse and then now all of a sudden it's a good idea.
I didn't
Yeah.
feel kicked in the head.
Well,
and
I think you should have.
Well, I
think you should have.
think you're a jackass.
Well, that's not.
So
I
I don't care. No,
Right.
but
Jerry, you're not very nice.
Hey, don't interrupt.
no.
Be nice.
You're not very nice.
So, hey,
No, you-
okay, we're stopping.
So-
We're talking about
So
moving
let's talk
forward. We're
about
not
what
talking-
happened at the last bond.
Okay,
Okay. We
but you did
repackaged
not
it.
support.
I did not support because we didn't have a plan that
We
took
had
us
a
out
plan.
20. We did not.
We did have a plan.
We did not. We
We
had
do
one that
have
took
a
us
plan.
out 2 years and did not.
Point of
It's just-
order. We keep going into like the weeds, like it is what it is. We need to move forward and think of
Agreed.
ideas. So
Right.
stop taking us to the past. What is your
Right.
idea next?
So I have ideas, but how am I going to lead that? If I
Tell
keep
us.
getting,
What's
You're
your
not
idea?
going to lead anything. We are a team.
What's your idea?
We
I'll
can
write it down.
discuss it.
I'll write it down.
Hey,
I'll
that's what
publish
this
it.
time
I
is
will.
for.
I will publish it because
Did
then
you?
then it gets
I have a
actually
question
heard.
for you.
It'll actually
Did
get
you
heard.
did you run for election to become part of a team or to be an individual?
What
What do
team
you?
is
this team?
This team, I don't
Yes.
feel that this is part of a team where we deceive the public.
We
We
do
do
not
not act.
deceive anything.
I do. Yes, I feel
That is
we do.
your opinion.
We deceive the public by not publishing
That is
minutes.
your opinion.
Minutes. They're
Okay, if
incomplete.
you bring the minutes up one more time, we are going to go with a formal censure for you about the minutes. Okay, we have voted on it. We have discussed them many, many times. You are the only one that feels that way.
I have talked-
If you bring them up again, then we will proceed with a formal censure. Okay,
What is your idea, Jeremy, going forward?
Well, I'll write it down. I'll publish it.
But
How's
the
that?
time right now is to discuss. That is the purpose of this. So Alexa can set up a facilities meeting. You are only delaying the process.
I need to be on the facilities committee.
no, you do not.
Whoa, take it easier. Take it
You-
easier.
I had
You're not
to ask you
qualified
to
be on the
move.
committee. I'm sorry to say
Oh,
that.
and you are.
I am. I ran an $80
I don't care
million
what you
backup
did.
facility for the Air Force. And I had an 80
Jerry,
men.
Jerry, you are not there to,
I had the
Jerry,
experience.
you can't. You are in board, what is it called?
Someone's got to lead it.
it has been led by our superintendent.
And we keep going down the wrong path. Somebody has to know what
No,
they're
that
doing.
is your
That's your
opinion.
opinion.
Well, I know how to do it. I've always known how to do it.
Then resign your spot on the school board
No,
and you can
guys,
become on the, you can come
I'll
and be on the
publish it.
facilities committee.
I'll get it to you guys. I'll get it to you. I'll publish it for you.
Okay, so
Okay.
then we'll move forward with discussion tonight and we'll give Alexa some direction. Because yours is going to be, your thoughts will come later and we will already have asked Alexa to move forward. That's what we're doing here now is we're discussing. If you're not prepared to do that tonight per the agenda, then
When's the next facilities board meeting?
sometime.
It's going to be in January, but this is our only December meeting to give me direction for how to run the next meeting. So your job is to give me some ideas and some direction for how to facilitate the next meeting. This is our only December meeting.
Well, I heard the meeting. My wife went to it and she was not impressed.
Well,
She was not impressed with the same rhetoric of the folks that were going to go down the same path. It was kind of nice to hear the transportation
Yeah.
facilities.
Not the
road-
same path.
Well, it's
Jerry, we're
different, but-
trying to move forward for the kids in the community.
Hmm.
You disagree about how we're doing that. Okay? That's why there's 5 of us to get to make choices. I'm sorry your wife felt that it was a very well-run meeting. I thought Alexa did a great job in bringing it forward, as did most of the other people that I talked to.
They
So-
stayed after and complimented her. There were a lot of great ideas.
I guess my big question is, Eric and Jerry, is if we come up with a solution that isn't written by Jerry and isn't presented by you, Jerry, are you gonna not sign it? Because if you're not gonna, if it has to be exactly what you present,
You know, the
then
thing-
we might as well just hear that right now.
The thing is, I've always had the ability since I was high school to see the end game of a project that I was going to work on. And I could see the outcome. I could see how to get there. I already know how to get there. And I saw it back before I was elected. And I tried to help you guys with the February assessment of the bond, and you ignored it. And then we just pressed on to do it again in November. And now we're reeling back. So I still have the same idea. And it's actually morphed a little bit. And I think the only way I'm going to get any traction on it is to actually write it all out so that you can formulate. Because
You're asking me to trust you implicitly, and if I don't trust you, then I'm an idiot and I don't know what I'm doing. Like you have all the answers.
I have it figured out.
You're a prophet.
I'm not a prophet. I'm strategic.
Okay.
Because
Why do you always got to insult me?
I'm not.
You're always trying to
Okay,
insult
I'm
me.
asking you.
Gentlemen,
I'm asking you.
Always.
You
You're
always
trying to
have
insult me.
gentlemen,
Always trying to insult
okay,
me.
we need to get back online to discuss about moving forward. So we're talking about bringing forth a capital levy or doing another bond or doing what? So Craig, what is your thoughts on things right now?
Sounds like capital levy based off of the recommendation is the way to go, securing the land. That's
Okay, that puts us 6 years out of doing a bond for a school. Okay, just so we all understand that. Jerry?
So the levy, is there a cap on that? Millions? Is that
The capital levy? No, but if we run it for too much, then we're increasing taxes. And we've tried not to do that. We've tried to keep taxes at a level spot. So if we go for, say, a $14 million capital levy-ish, that puts it at like $1. It's about where our taxes are now.
and you
The
won't.
16 million was $1.50 of the notes I took.
Okay.
For six-
And that would, and to get that passed, we'd have to wait until November of next year.
No,
Because for a levy, it doesn't have to be validated with the same percentages that it does
50%.
of the 1 to 4. No, the presidential election, we would have to get a certain percentage of the people that voted in this
Oh,
thing to
gotcha.
ratify the levy. Correct?
So,
Correct.
and you would go, and you guys are looking at May.
Well,
It
we're
could be
talking-
February or
February.
November. May and August are kind of discouraged.
I think the deadline is already passed.
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay. Well,
November, August.
So my input was you'd want your constituents to have some time to chew on whatever you put out there. So you wouldn't want it rushed.
Nope.
So you'd want it, and you'd want to do it before the end of the school year, because once everybody's in the summer, everybody's turned
Yeah,
off.
August.
And then
one's
on,
not
it's
good.
too late. You don't want to. So you'd want it in May. And the thing is, it's got to include the other things that you need to put into that. So you're missing a few things.
Such as.
So what are you going to do with about Arcadia's repairs? What are you
What
going
a
to do there?
repair.
Well, she's got a leaking roof.
It doesn't leak.
They put buckets out.
The roof is not in question.
Right. So what do we do to fix that, right? Because
How do we fix that?
how do we fix that?
Steve's been working on that for like 30 years. He's had his words, not mine. I've had tons of people come out here trying to help me fix this. It only happens when it blows sideways. So maybe moving the air handler.
Can we
But-
set up a vent system in front of that shields the rain that
But
comes?
that is, again, not our thing. Okay. The roof is not leaking.
So
That
that's
is
an unanswered question. I have note. I have note that that's
We
an
have to
unanswered
include,
question.
it has to be part, whatever we do, it has to be part of that. We have to have
Okay.
a solve for the Arcadia, because that's where Home Link's going to go.
A
They've
what
gotta-
for- a what for?
No, HomeLink is not moving
Is
there.
it- Where
We
they
don't
go?
build it to school, we can't.
There's no.
It's only,
They're staying right here. If we
I know.
don't build a new
you
school,
guys are losing the strategic. I'm trying to give you the strategic picture and you're losing it already. I'm trying to tell you, you have to have a plan for where Arcadia is gonna, where the Homelink is gonna go. So I'm looking at how do you fix Arcadia at the same time you're building a transportation facility so that when we ask for the bond, where we want the taxpayers to help
In
us.
6 years, right? So you're
Right,
talking about in 6 years.
We have fixed Arcadia and Homelink goes right in. So we want a plan to have that building fixed.
so.
Yes.
The remodel for Arcadia looks completely different for Homelink. So the school rooms we have now are big enough to fit those 30s or ish or less kids in each room.
Right.
Homelinks are much smaller. So until those kids are out of Arcadia, you can't remodel the inside of Arcadia.
No, I'm not asking to remodel the inside. I'm looking at the repairs outside,
Okay,
the roof.
so what I'm
There's the
saying,
back door. There's that
Okay. So I
elevator.
have note to
The
look at some
elevators,
fixing
security
pieces
issue,
of Arcadia.
safety issue.
those are operational things.
Right, that we could start working on
That
over
we
the
can
summer
have
months.
Steve and his facilities people want to work on.
What
Okay.
I'm trying to get you on it's not just, there's the bigger picture, right?
But we don't need money to do those projects.
This is where we disagree. I'm trying to get us where we're fixing stuff that's coming out. People now know about the water in the gym, in the buckets, and we've got the back door where the kids go out that's still not finished, remodeled and that. So we've got to get Arcadia back on the docket for repairs.
I see, you're saying just
So that the
day-to-day
Homelink
repairs.
families
Okay.
know that we're thinking about them and they have a place to go when this whole thing folds out.
They don't
Otherwise,
want to go there.
where else are we going to put them?
I'm just saying, they don't want you to move them.
Because they like this this environment here.
They want to
They
be
want to
away
be
from the
away
other
from the other
schools.
schools.
Okay.
Has nothing to do with it.
Right, but they'll have their own school.
I understand.
Nothing to do with
But I mean, there's no other choice.
But they don't want that.
I
Just so
know.
you know.
Okay.
You're
I
saying
agree.
make it,
So,
okay, I want to,
sorry.
I'm just taking down notes because what I heard, don't rush. I put May question mark because that would be a special election for May that you guys would have to decide.
And the cost for doing that is huge.
That's like,
No, this is incremental.
No. To run, if we are the only thing on the election, say we run it in
yes.
May, it costs us $200,000 to run the election versus, right, this time it was 30,000, I think, what it cost, our portion of it. So if we run the whole thing and we're the only thing on the ballot,
Or it costs
then it becomes cost prohibitive.
prohibitive.
So
Agreed.
then we don't want to run in August because nobody's around, schools are not on their mind. It pushes us to November.
So that's a one-shot deal.
Okay.
Okay, so so you talked about Arcadia and the repairs and doing that
So
while
that's
we're
gotta be
in
on the
waiting.
It's
Okay,
got to be part of the package so that they know that we are concerned about it and that we know that the Homelink families will eventually be in that facility.
Okay.
And they're back on it because they got taken off.
If they want.
it's low hanging fruit. We've got to utilize it where you've got a big transportation, you've got your high end dollars, you've got your middle dollars, and then you've got your low cost handles. I'm not
Yes.
saying it's low cost, but it's enough that it's like, hey, we can take care of these issues at the
Yes.
same time.
Yes.
so when Homeland moves in, these will be fixed, right?
Right?
And then
Okay.
addressing the contextual needs
Right.
all at the same time.
Okay.
Okay.
What
So the other.
Well, that too, just like the roundabout.
Okay, so the other thing that we need to do is that there's a 2-year plan. Once, let's say you got the bond passed. And what I understand from Steve's briefing is it's like a year for the requirements and a year for the architect to do their work before you'd actually start the ground. So we add that in now.
Okay,
We
so
put
now
the
we're 8 to 10 years. So we're getting to the 20 years. We're at 8 to 10 years now.
So we put that architecture, the requirements and the architectural work into this from the start. So we start designing
He's
it
talking about planning for 8 years.
But you-
in the school.
But we can't because we can't afford it.
We can still pay for the design. We're gonna, as soon as we got the money, we got the design that's done.
You have to pass a bond before you can do that.
To do the design work.
Correct.
Why would we do that anyhow?
So we short circuit the time.
But we're
Because
not.
if right now, if we wait to get a bond, then it's a 2-year wait.
This is why we're telling you, we have to pass.
That's
it on
why
so
I'm
we
saying
can-
is we work on the requirement. We can work on the requirement.
And what
We don't
happens
have-
if the bond doesn't pass? And we have,
Then we can spend all that.
then it shelves until it does.
Are you
got the
saying
work
run,
done.
are you suggesting running a bond?
No, I'm suggesting that we get the architecture and the requirements work done at the
Um,
time we're doing the road
We can't
work.
do that.
Why can't you?
So.
You can do the
explain
requirements
this?
work.
Is
That
there-
doesn't
Well, that's
require,
like some of this, but
Is there a law against it? Is there a rule?
you can't, there's nothing stopping you from
cost,
working the
right?
requirements. And
What do you mean require? Can I just, I'm asking,
requirements is like you're going to the teachers, you go to the janitors, you go to the folks that do the HVAC. Like if you were to put an HVAC system, where would you put it? You know, like say, hey, if we could put that underground and we could have access to the classrooms underground instead of going into the classroom.
so
I mean,
like
there's all those kind of,
interests,
what's
I
that?
see them as interests. So teachers, what are your interests for your classroom? Teachers, what are your interests? Like we started doing that with the teachers, but that doesn't require.
What it ends up doing is it generates the requirements. It generates the requirements is what you want. It's like, so then the cooks and that say, we've been in a number of facilities where the trucks try to back up and we can't get them unloaded because they do. So they get to help design the loading dock.
So can I go back to the first 6 years? I understand where you're going. You're going like, look long range, look at what the end is in sight, but we haven't even figured out what the next capital levy is going to look like.
that's what he's saying, put that on the capital. levy.
I'm trying to put that on there. I'm saying we do, what I'm giving you is the additional thing that we're adding on.
And
So
I disagree with you.
I'm trying to do the requirements and the architecture work at the same time to shorten the time.
Maybe it's not
We
that
don't
work,
wait,
but maybe
'cause
it's
we're
some
gonna-
preliminary work, right?
I-
I don't know.
Is it right now, we would have to put portals in and have to do something at Arcadia because there's only 2 years left before we're in the red. Well, I understand with the student body and the numbers that we have coming at there. So we're already gonna be
Rebecca,
at a problem.
So in regards to like city councils and things like that, they want to go for a huge grant. City of Coeur d'Alene, it's an $8 million project, okay? In order to do an $8 million job, they had to hire us for $600,000 to do the design work to get it so that we can go for the $8 million grant. Okay, there's differences in that, you have right of way, such like that. So the first off, in that scenario, you do a $30,000 or a 30% design. Everybody kind of agreed on that, the council agreed on that, the public agreed on that, check the box, we're a step closer.
Yep.
Then you scenario where you're like, okay, we're getting close, we're gonna put money in to get some sort of a design figured out. And we can, and it's variable. And that's a scenario where then when the money comes, then you already have a plan and you state that you have a plan. You have to submit in for the grants, full right of way, you have to submit your environmental, all these things that have already been started with CEPA, so that way you get approval. So there is very common in the transportation world, it happens all the time, that you have pre-plan. I'm learning all about school boards, I don't know how the rule is, but in that kind of atmosphere, and the cities around, you have to put the money in.
so
To the scope, Eric, is a different all ball game, okay, but I mean. We've been doing it, the facilities are doing it, it's just a matter of one more, where you put the money into it, maybe the public would pay for that, we get it from capital levy, and then we get closer.
What would be a cost estimate of that?
Well, you take the, how is it, $55 million? 550,000, I mean, and it's 10%, easily 10%, don't even talk about less than 10%.
I know, but if we're talking about a $16 million capital levy, that's a lot of that capital levy that we use into that.
$160,000. You
And then
can't,
you don't hit any of our
I'm
projects.
looking at 10, I mean, it's right. And you just can't even, and that's just a baseline, 10%.
Can I just toss something out? If you do the capital levy, you're pushing a bond out 6 years,
Mhm.
At least 3, possibly 6. When school districts run bonds, they are required to assess where you're at in the state funds according to your FTE, your current situation, your debt capacity. A lot is going to change in 6 years.
you don't dare put a considerable amount of cash into planning for something that may not fit the needs when the state comes in and tells you what your regulations are and what you approve for.
Thank you. And that's where I was going. It's kind of like, well, where is the
Mm.
line?
It's because the state dictates everything a school district does. We operate on tax dollars. There's just a different level. It's completely different than commercial or industrial or personal finance. And school funding through the state has never been adequate. It's always underfunded. The construction model that they use was broken when they rolled it out. We fought for it for years, and it's still not meeting the needs of districts. This is why districts in the state for decades have always had a bond issue and levies going concurrently, trying to keep tax rates level, because it's the only way to counteract the lack of funding from the state.
And if we spend $550,000 now and we don't run the bond for 6 years, and I mean, our plans could change dramatically in that point in time, or we throw another $100,000 in at that point to fix the plans.
I'm not looking at, you guys talk about 6, so you're like, we're going to do this, and then in 6 years, we're going to come back to the.
Well, if it's a capital levy, it has to go a certain term.
Can we, okay, so it's what, 6 years? Is that what you guys were talking about?
3 to
But you
6
could
years.
refinance
3 to
that.
6.
You could still put a bond out there at year 2, or you could put this
You
out
can.
there and still run a bond in November to pay for the rest.
And increase all the taxes at that point in time by having the capital levy and the bond on it. That's,
Well, you would take the existing levy and you'd finance it back in. You get
I don't
the
think you
ball
can do
rolling.
that once you
Yeah.
sell the
You can't?
bonds.
You can't
Once you sell the
refinance the levy.
bonds, you can't,
You can't
do that.
refinance the levy.
but that would.
No, because the levy, we get the funds after the year.
So it's a levy, so maybe a levy plus a bond?
No,
A capital levy or a bond.
Mhm.
not both.
If you do the
So
capital levy, you're gonna kick the.
So we're still gonna be in trouble because in 2 years, we still got our Arcadia problem.
Yes.
That's what I said.
Yes.
Okay, the maintenance issues, you need to understand. Steve is already, he's got his
Sure.
priorities, everything, and it's ongoing. The only reason that they haven't put significant amount of money into the roof is because they wanted to see where the bond is going.
Right. But
If
they
they
didn't
did
have
that, make it
Arcadia on the
1.5.
bond this time,
For all
so.
the leaking, it'll be, it's a daily workings. It's
That's an
just hard to-
estimated 1.5, by the way. That's an estimated 1.5.
For what?
Arcadia, if they redo the,
Oh, to redo the whole roof and everything.
yeah, but they were waiting
So
on the
they're
bond.
holding back on a significant remodel or a renovation or, roof replacement in the, waiting to see where the bond goes. If that's what has to be done, then maintenance will do that. That's a separate issue. You can't worry about the day-to-day maintenance and facilities because Steve's already on top of that.
Sure he is.
Okay, so
But you've got to take care of the folks that hear about it, right? You got to have a plan to address it.
every day it's in there. It's a priority. Steve's aware of it and the department's handling that. But the board needs to decide what's the next steps. Are you going to do a capital levy that is 3 to 6 years? You can't go past 6 years.
No.
And it's still a cost per thousand. At above 26, you're going to get 14.5 million-ish, 15 million. And that would keep you basically level like the bond would have at 6 cents per thousand. But anyway, you're going to do it for 6 years
So,
to keep it at $1.26. If you wanted to go to 18 million to do a little bit more, it's
Then
going to
it
bump it
raises
up.
that.
so that means
For 6 years.
we have to do something in Arcadia that takes care of the crowding problem. That's where we're at.
So are you going to dump a minimum of 500,000 of each portable that you need there, plus infrastructure on property that
Is there
doesn't
another
have the
alternative?
heart?
Is
The
there?
other alternative was to pass the bond and
Okay, but
build.
we didn't pass the bond,
I
so
know.
what other
And,
alternative?
and the problem is, I don't think that, so we have to make up 7 percentage points this next time. If we were to run the bond again, we have to make up, can we do that? I don't
Well,
think we can.
change
So
the pack-
We can,
maybe.
if we have it planned out well, like we're discussing right now. If we plan it out well and take us from today all the way through getting Arcadia, getting the road, and we have it all planned out. And the one thing we also have to have on the books is what's going to get us at year 15 or year 10.
What?
Yep.
What do you mean, what's gonna get us?
The overcrowding at the high school, the
We
catastrophic.
There won't be.
There's gonna be, well,
Analytics, there won't be.
sorry, guys, here's the thing. We went for 27 years. The public said, you're locking us in for 27 years. We know something's going to happen at year 15,
No, they
I don't
don't
think
want
that's what they said.
taxes.
The high school.
That's what everyone has said. I don't want taxes.
Mhm.
right? So there's enough room, but at one point, does the high school overfill? What year is that? Is
So,
that
I mean,
13? Is that
the
7?
point is like a bond is a gamble. I mean, if we're going to say we can make up that 7 percentage points, we're gambling that we can, and we're risking not being able to pass at least a capital levy to at least do some of these things that have to be done, especially acquiring land. I mean, that's what I'm hearing is, well, and I know that's a fact, with a growing community like this, that's hot.
Right.
Hot commodity right there. So we have to get that. I don't know if we can gamble on getting that 7%. That's just kind of where I'm at.
So we're looking at a capital levy that takes in the transportation center, the road, the track and field.
And that one I wouldn't even put on there.
See, I
You
think
got enough people who are like, you're putting money into track and field, and we're talking about Arcadia's leaks, and there's not enough room there. And now you're going to put a track and field in, and how many fields do we need? So
we're not.
the public is
We're a
gonna.
strong sports community, and majority of the people at that meeting were very much for that. Track.
That was
Because that would make it where we could host like.
Well, it's
competition.
also a visual thing. But when I was at the football field or football games, I was approached by a whole bunch. Why did we move these back? What's going to happen with the big hole here? What's going to do all that?
okay.
Just
Can
like
I,
you're saying.
can I give you some constructive feedback? You guys are willing to listen. Again, this is where I was trying to get you guys to listen.
Well, if it's
Okay. We went and we're doing the softball field, right? And then we did some stadium work, and now we want to go get another field, and we got
we're not talking about
It's
another
not
field.
right?
Expanding the track,
spending the track, right? I mean,
2 lanes.
okay, but what I'm saying is
To make
we're
it a
pouring
state
more money into the field work instead of into the classrooms and the buildings.
Agreed.
And so that's where you're going to turn off the public. It's like, my God, what are you guys doing now? So anything that has to do with on the grounds has to be put on hold until we take care of the buildings.
Okay, the
So
only
the-
way we can take care of the building is to build another school without adding portables or whatever to Arcadia. The only way to fix that is to build another school. You opposed that the last
Because we
time.
did not have a strategic plan that took us beyond
It
2
doesn't matter,
years.
you encouraged people to vote no. So now. we're
I
in a
did,
situation-
because we still have to have it. We still have to have the same plan. We still have to have the same plan. I haven't bet much from that.
To make it so that we are not overcrowded.
So what I can do is look at DPE's numbers and Arcadia's numbers.
Yeah, and
And it's the common spaces.
I was gonna say, that's their
I mean,
big problem.
we have.
And to change the envelope is hard, but can I just answer really quickly your question?
Yes.
We just did DPE's roof for $1 million. We did the softball field along with the bleachers and press box. The bleachers and press box were non-ADA compliant, right? We know those go to football, so we needed to do something to make sure that we met Title IX requirements along the way. And that's why we did the softball.
Yes, I
field,
remember that.
Okay.
Yes.
So we also did DPE's roof. We also did HVAC in this building, and we did HVAC at DPE. So we're taking care of the bigger, broader projects across the way.
Right.
We
Yes.
were waiting on Arcadia to see what was going to happen with the bond. So the land plus the road, according to this, is 5. The transportation center is about 6. That puts us at 11. If you were to look at the track and field, which is the current track and field, it's a +4. Now, the levy funds and the LGO bond can't go for new construction.
Yes.
So the advantage of doing the track in the field is that you can actually use some of those funds because it's just renovating. You can't use it for, so it can't go toward the transportation center. So there's some stipulations and rules around the LGO.
Can you, Alexa, repeat that just for me? So
Yep.
Land and roads, 5 million.
Yep, transpose about 6.
Transport 6, yeah. So for some reason I had 7 for the transpo.
Maybe it is 7. I'd have to go back.
That was in
I
there, I
wrote
think.
7.
Okay, 7. So that would be 12. The other thing is we know that we can save capital funds to a certain extent annually.
So circling back to the beginning of this conversation, Eric and I am 100%, let's get the land. I mean, there's no question we have to get that. Before I go into the other parts, I am very thankful that we looked into what it would impact for 8th grade to high school and 5th grade to high school. Great conversation to have that, great thinking about things, but that was definitely not a choice I was going to be behind. So I'm glad that we did the analysis and that's off the table. Makes me feel good. So, but in regards to the capital, yes, we need to do that. More conversation about what we actually have to do with the road in order to meet the requirements for the city. Would be interesting to see if some of that money maybe can go more towards improvements to the school, if not. And then I understand the track and field and scenario, that's the visual that people have. However, there is a balancing act between that and what they've heard over and over again about the students and overcrowding. So I'm not sold yet on how do we address that. I don't know what our solution is. I'd like to hear more about what do we do in the interim at the Arcadia to address it until we get to the bond. I haven't heard solution potentials for that yet, other than portables.
And
You add on wings at $450 a square foot.
And that was, okay, that was the wing 400.
About. How about this? I will go back to Arcadia with Steve and have the discussion.
And it's the commonplace, it's the question. So what is a big wing with a cafeteria on the east side of the gym or something, you know, where the change that playground on the south side, what is a commonplace wing look like? And that would be something I would be interested in. It would take care of that need right now and would still be useful in the future. It's still a commonplace for the community in the future. We're still providing for the students now and the community later. With that, it is not throwaway.
Yeah. Arcadia has to be part of the equation. There's no way around it. If we're going to be locked in for 6 years, we have to have, and I don't think the portables is a good venture. Because it's just throwing more money at a
We
problem.
can't use capital levies for new construction. That was the problem.
So say how that.
We can't build, when I talked to Corey.
The LGO.
No,
I just wrote it for.
Is it new construction or is it reconstruction? Can we consider a wing
that would be a question.
a reconstruction?
Are you talking about putting Arcadia as a part of the capital levy
Yeah.
for stuff?
It
Got
has to.
Okay.
There's no way around it.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure I understood.
And that's why I was saying to balance maybe some less of the road. Maybe we don't go all the way down to Cedar at this time. I'm just throwing out because we have those other side streets now. Maybe the transportation analysis won't necessarily do that. We have a cul-de-sac at the end. We don't have to go all the way. And
But that's-
Tim, I'm just throwing it out. Or versus having another $500,000 for.
Yeah, you come up with a hybrid instead of where the city allows us to finish the road at a later date, is what you're suggesting, right?
Well, that was
You're
one.
suggesting that, correct?
I apologize.
You're suggesting that we don't do the complete road, that we still owe the city to complete the road. Do we only do like half the road so we can get the transportation in, get the facilities into to where the infrastructure is going to be for the elementary? And then when we get the other bond, then we could finish, because you're trying to say maybe we could divert some of the money that we would put in the
I think
road.
it's something to conversation to have.
I think it's a good idea because it's a
Right now, we're asking the city to change what they did,
Mhm.
and still sell us the thing. Their original thing was, that was the reason they're selling us the land at such a good deal, is because we at that point in time agreed to bring the road around.
Right.
And
But
that said, it was also bring the road around because we refused to do a roundabout the intersection. And I am still a fan of discussing a roundabout the intersection.
But do we
That's the only action I
so
would take it better.
if you have a good plan, then you could take it back to the city and then
but we need,
if they're willing to.
right now, we're asking the city to do something. We've already proceeded forward, talking to them about changing things.
Okay.
If we keep changing things, they're gonna just
Okay.
back out. And
Okay.
we're not gonna get it. And we need that portion of it.
Okay, so it's a complete road by the
Complete
land.
road,
Okay.
by the land.
All right, so Arcadia's got to be put on the table to a better solution. And so we need to find out if we can add to the facility
Okay.
without breaking the rules. If they say you can't, right, and they say it's new construction, then we're back to what I suggested was a non-voted bond?
You can't, because that you can't use for new building.
You can't?
No.
Non-voted?
The
It can't be used for transportation. I think it could be maybe Arcadia because it's an existing building.
Oh.
If we're doing
But then
renovations.
we're talking about spending millions of dollars on Arcadia to stopgap something, right?
Right about.
That we're throwing good money after bad, because then in 5 years we go and Homelinks doesn't need that huge of a facility.
Could we
So now-
swap the elementary school, the kindergartens first and second, put them in Arcadia and put Homelink in the other? If we make Arcadia bigger, then we can move the elementary to there and then move Homelink into the existing elementary school. Swap them out. So if Arcadia is bigger, right?
Mhm.
It just,
Anything we do to Arcadia has got to be sort of like, okay, we're growing it because of the existing problem, but you still would want to have what you're going to do with it after, you built the new elementary, right? Because then you got this bigger facility and now Homelink's only using half of it. Well, then folks are going to go on, well, that wasn't such a great idea, right? So,
Yeah, I understand your thinking. I'm just thinking out loud. DPE, because they're younger grade levels, they have smaller classrooms. So they have 8 per grade level. So 24 classrooms plus the music and the gym. And Arcadia only has 7. So they only require 21 classrooms. So I'm just thinking at the onset, I don't know about space wise if that works, but I think it's a good creative thought.
okay.
Interesting to see like the wing, what is the common spaces that we really need? A multi-purpose room and, / cafeteria. If we use the gym we have and
Or
we
you
just
turn that
do
cafeteria and make it bigger.
something
Yeah.
along those lines, I'm curious of what that cost is because basically we have, what did we come up with? $16 million. Is that where we're at? 14. Did we say?
Depends on what you want the tax
what do
rate.
you want us to do?
So we had 14 million, then we had 60 million, then we said 5 plus 7 plus 4. So in a scenario where we have to think about, in my opinion, phases. Yes, we want the transportation building to be the full. Okay, I said maybe we don't do the road the whole way, or maybe we only do the partially road and not the whole sidewalk, blah, blah, to city standards, love city standards. But is it a scenario where I think we need to understand what the cost would be to do the additions that's needed at the Arcadia. And then we have this money that we have and we're doing top down. $16 million, let's say. Okay, we have $16 million to address the land, number 1, road, transpo, track and field, and Arcadia.
I know.
So how do we divvy that up?
Well, okay, so I would subtract the track and field and let that go to the voters in the bond. That's what I would do because again, the voters are like, we don't need another field. We want it to go to the building. So I don't know what
That mean,
I think. What's that?
can I clarify what the track and field means? So that we've got the regular track. right? We put correct me if I'm wrong.
Right, this is
We've got
expansion.
this, yeah, we've got to take this out and then we put in the track. What that addresses is track and field, full out. We can do districts and everything there. We can now host league soccer games because our soccer field's not maintaining. And then as well as the football and addressable football scenario.
I'm,
Okay, I just want to make sure we're on.
I'm for
Okay,
it,
perfect. Okay.
but at a later date. I'm more about the classrooms and getting kids in the class. So and we already got it started. And right now it's stalled. We knew they were going to do that later. And it just would fall maybe to the main bond, right? Where we get the elementary. So the other part was still doing some of this design work as part of that, that building.
We're still not addressing Arcadia's other issue, which is common areas is the biggest concern, but then safety. So you have kids sitting in portables. We've made a big deal about this. I don't like my third grader out there. I'm sure if your child's out there, you don't like it. So my question to you, Alexa, does Arcadia do push in with their students? Or are they having, because from what I've been in the buildings, they have their own classrooms. And that would open up some of our classrooms to move kids out of portables.
We have the interventionists in closets and the old library. So there's 3 or 4, I think, in the library, and they sit in small groups. So could the library end up being a potential classroom? Potentially, maybe. I don't know.
I'm just wondering because I've heard that we do push in with the high school, right? And middle school.
Mm-hmm.
I'm glad you said that about the safety.
Something to consider for our little kids too.
And
Mm-hmm.
we need to have something for all the voters. And your voters might be saying that they don't want a track and field. My voters are saying that they want one.
For instance.
They want that finished. They don't want to have it partially done. They don't want to have things there. So
I agree, Eric. I agree. But this is again, let's go back to the whole plan. See, you have it all planned out. It's like, okay, we're going to do these things. We're going to, buy the land. We're going to put the road in. We're going to start design work on Arcadia and the requirements phasing. We're going to add a wing or whatever. Let's say we're adding a wing to Arcadia, and that's going to make it a bigger school. We like the idea. We move the elementary into that facility. We move HomeLink into, right. So we do some swapping, and then we so we want to finish the stadium, the track that's on a plan, and that might be part of the main bond that is building the elementary school. So it's on there. So if you lay it all out, the public gets to see all the things that are going to happen at what stage. So it's not off the books. It's just not immediate.
You're saying prioritize Arcadia renovations over track and field.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
That's what I'm hearing you say.
Big time. And then you're going to get the HomeLink voters back because now they know that's where they're going to end up. They know that we're spending money to help them get moved out of this building.
So is that the only way you will tell voters to vote yes? Is if we make that
right now we're hybrid, right? We're
No, I'm just asking you, like your constituents, will you tell them to vote yes only if that's the top priority? Like if we as a board decide to make track and field a higher priority, would you tell your constituents vote no?
You're not. Yes, you're agreed. Your voters are not going to like the idea of putting a track and field in when the students are overcrowded.
My voters?
Any of the voters. All of our
voters?
They all voted for you. They voted the same ones that voted for you. Voted for I.
I'm just saying.
So I call them generically voters.
Sure.
They're not going to like the idea that we're putting money into grounds when it should be into facilities.
So I just asked you because in the last bond, you told people to vote no because we didn't do things a certain way. I'm asking you, if we don't do it that way, are you going to tell voters to vote no?
It's a whole new game, right? Right now, we're working on it. We're working group level, working on it. So I can't give you an answer until I know where we're at the end.
Well, and I think my next question
It
is,
sounds like
what
you're
are
listening.
the needs of Arcadia?
I think that's the kicker because doing math, 150 by 150 times $450 square foot, we're $10 million. So
Right, that's what I'm a little worried about.
We need to be thinking about what that common space, how much money do we have in it?
we don't have enough to add a wing or add a kitchen, because the kitchen's not gonna be four.
The facilities advisory committee, I think, went on this
$5,000
task previously, right?
What's that?
The kitchen's not, say you're talking about common spaces and kitchens and whatever, that just regular is 450, that's not including the soft costs to put whatever needs in there. But if we throw in a
30%.
kitchen, which is part of the problem with Arcadia as well, it's not, I mean, it's big enough, they just do a lot of stuff, but you're talking $10,000 a square foot per kitchen because you're talking appliances and all the other stuff that goes in there. And if we're at 400, say 100, what'd you say?
450.
450
Is what they
times
generally.
100,000 square feet or whatever. Then
Well, the
we're-
thing is, in 2 years, we're already there. In 2 years, Arcadia is maxed out. We are going to have to do something. So even though we put a portable out there, we can't have any. We were already told that the infrastructure won't support it. The internal, the building itself, the cafeteria, the gym, all that. So those have to be expended. So we have to do something at Arcadia.
but we can't afford to do what Arcadia needs.
Well,
We've done at a bond. We would have to go to a bond at that point in time to get
10 million.
10 million plus do the other things, plus the transportation and the road.
So we cannot do the levy and the bond.
We can, but if you do the bond or the levy and it's $1.30 or whatever it is, $1.50, and then 2 years we put a bond on top of that for another $1.50, we're increasing taxes by that much.
Can
They're gonna tell
can the
us that.
levy be stretched out 20?
No,
No.
Six.
Six is
years.
max?
Yes.
So can you have 2 bonds?
you can have as many bonds as you want.
Okay, so we could do a 20-year bond for the first part, and then we have a bond for the second part.
Then we'd have two books. So
But we keep the first one will be low, right? Because we're only,
For what?
let's say 20 million when we add addition
to
to
do
the.
a wing. Is that what you're
Right,
saying?
right, maybe.
Now, does that take away what is the extra money that you get when we?
SCAP?
Yeah, thank you. Does that take it away because we're going out of the blueprint? Because I thought
Right.
to get the gap, we had to stay within the blueprint.
The reason SCAP was applied, as I understand, I could be wrong, for the new school was for unhoused students currently at Arcadia. When the current Arcadia hits the 30-year mark, that building itself is also eligible for SCAP,
Okay.
assuming SCAP stays the same.
But if we
And
add
it
to
is within 2 years,
Correct.
right?
it's okay.
Arcadia
They'll
falls
hit the
in
30
that.
years. So if we put in like 4 million, we could get some SCAP just to do that renovation. I believe that's an accurate statement.
Yeah.
Renovation or add? A new add on?
because if
Yeah, I think
We do
so.
both,
Because I
right?
thought
We
we
gotta,
added
we
on
wouldn't
it.
want to
to-
renovate it
That's what
till
she's worried about.
the
That's
kids
about.
move out.
'cause that's
Adding
what
on
we
to
talked
Arcadia.
about At a facilities
Okay.
meeting was if we added on to the blueprint, that would take away SCAP.
Yeah, we
right?
like that.
That's what I
I do
remember.
believe you're accurate because that's the unhoused students' money that was going toward the new school, right? Yes,
So we could not get our state money met.
for the new elementary school.
Well, here's another variable to think about because with the incoming.
I think you're right, Lindsay.
with the incoming president, right, saying he's going to defund education at a federal level. Well, like, we're not sure how that's going to impact how bonds are run or any of that. So I think the longer we wait or the longer we try to make this a long game, we could lose the possibility to even, run any kind of bond or capital levy or whatever. So I don't know. I just keep coming back to this idea that we really have to get that land, whatever way we can, as soon as we can, before potentially things change. Because that's just one variable we can't discount is that over the next 4 years, the way we do public education could completely change. And so it'd be good to be locked into something.
what did we give the city? What did we tell them that we would do? What was the change that we gave them?
We asked for the purchase of the land to not be contingent on the bond passing.
Okay.
That's one. And that the road infrastructure be completed when we had the funds available.
Because if you do
Meaning
a
the
capital levy, if you don't get all the money the second you pass the levy, it comes year by year
Okay, so
Those are the two.
we do that, we would have to pay them payments. Because we get
Well,
the
then-
money every year.
Well, we may not be able to do the road until so many years in when we have the funds.
So we won't even get, so if we pass the levy that you guys were after for the 6 years, you get the money incrementally?
Correct.
So,
It's different than a bond.
so you bought the land, then you're waiting to the next levy to then put the road in, and then you're,
Yeah, you
then
get
you're
fragments of,
stretching that
you get
out.
fragments of dollars. You don't get the whole
That's,
thing.
that's
overnight.
why you're borrowing money against the project.
But that's why we're talking about the
Is that what we're
LGO.
doing?
That LGO bond.
We were talking about the
LGO.
LGO, which can be small because it's based on your debt capacity and being able to pay it back.
Okay,
And it can't go to new construction.
so it can't be the transportation facility.
Correct.
So we're back to doing a bond 1 and maybe a bond 2 then. Right? Because I don't see, unless you get the money up front, how are you going to get rolling on the transportation facility of the road and the infrastructure and help you start getting
That's
the
the
plan
conundrum.
for the elementary, the architecture and the requirements built in so that we have a hope game, because we're going to have that all laid out so that the voters, like, they know where we're going, we're going to end up. So if we're getting piecemeal, then we can only borrow a little bit against that levy.
That's
It's not
right.
enough.
That's right.
So that, I don't think that's going to work.
But if we do a capital levy for $14 million ish, whatever, we prioritize what we're going to put on there, not necessarily what we're asking for, whatever. So if we say we want, number 1 is the land and the road. Okay. Number 2 is the transportation facility. Number 3 is if we can do something at Arcadia, we put that there. But I don't know what that would be because we can't spend $10 million to create a wing or a huge amount of common space or whatever because the money's not there. That's why we're proposing to do a new building at the end. Then we have number 4, we have the track on there. Because if we borrow that money at that thing and it's out for 6 years, we can do some of those projects in the middle and not push it out 6 years and put it into a bond that runs for 20. Okay.
Yeah, but we still have an Arcadia problem in 2 years. And so the levy money that we took out, we're not getting to put to the road. We're not able to put to the transportation because now we've got to funnel it right back in Arcadia anyway.
What do we do?
To put
But
partitions.
if we
still,
go for a capital levy that says we're going to do these things, we cannot spend that money on something else.
right. We had it mapped out that it was going to go Arcadia, but as soon as you got that levy money in, we got the land bought, okay, but we wouldn't be able to put the road in because in 2 years we got to put our money back into Arcadia.
But we can't use the capital levy money for Arcadia without breaking the law because you can't do that.
Well, that's why we were putting it within the plan, right? That's what we were just discussing. We were talking land, transportation, infrastructure, requirements for the new elementary school with architecture, and work on Arcadia so that we're getting it ready.
I think the pending question was, can we use those monies for renovation? Like, right? Like, that's what we don't know.
And we need to.
Yeah.
And what's the highest priority? Is it getting kids into classrooms because portables are a safety issue? Is it the gym space because it's too small or lack of the multi-purpose room? Or is it, there's one other one, like what's the greatest need? And I think that to your point, we've been talking about the portables, right? We know that the envelope is too small altogether. So what's the greatest priority? What's the highest need to get kids in classrooms? Well, now we're talking about building a wing of 2, 4, 6, 8 classrooms. How many square feet is that for 8 classrooms, right? Times the 450. And I can't remember what an average classroom size is, plus the 30% soft cost. So let's say we end up at $10 million,
Then we can't do
then we might as well not build a new elementary school.
Yeah. And we can't,
And you
Do
lose your
that.
scaffolding.
And that's, and we
It's
wouldn't,
5.7 million.
Mm.
So I don't see how the levy's gonna work. I can't see the math working. Because it's spread out and we need it up front.
Mhm.
We need the money up front to get all these things lined up and to show that we're moving forward.
But if we
Because we're
use the
moving-
capital levy to, say we get the capital levy and we are able to we get that money. And then we borrow with a limited obligation bond or whatever it's called, LGO. Then we use that money to pay the city. And then in 5 years, we finish that road.
Mhm.
And that's what we're talking.
Yep.
To do
It's
that.
the agreement now is expires in 27.
Yes,
Mhm.
It's a local agreement that we have.
Yes.
with
yes. So we can finish the road, we can do everything within the 6 years,
Mhm.
but we can't do it tomorrow. That's the thing.
You gotta save your yearly monies.
Yeah,
So you
that's
can go.
dangerous because there's gonna,
We can't
You
spend
use
that.
money
It goes
for
into
anything
a
else. It
fund. that
Literally
you
sits there
can't-
as an earmark.
Well, I think what's more
you're
dangerous.
talking about the levy, right? You're talking about the levy.
Building the
Yeah, the
road,
capital levy.
the capital levy, you have, whatever you say you're using that for, it has to be used for.
Right.
So if you can't do the road because you get 1 year's worth of money, then you save that because it can't be used for anything else. So that's your earmark and you save it until you have enough to get that road.
Right, and nothing else is moving.
Well, but I think what's more dangerous is if we try to run the bond and it fails and we lose the land and we're landlocked and we have nowhere else to go. I think that's the more
Yes.
dangerous.
And that was the
Well, that's-
consensus of the facilities advisory committee was do whatever it takes to get the land and the road in. Because then we have options.
And I agree with that. I think
Did you?
that's my priority. Go ahead.
I heard land. I didn't necessarily hear land and road.
The land
Well, that's
is with the road. There's
part-
no
that's part of our
Yes.
agreement.
Yeah, it's all together.
If we could get them to just let us buy the land.
Like,
And the city can do the road.
Guys, you're not, the numbers aren't working. The numbers aren't working in terms of the other stuff we've got to address. It's not working. You get the land, you got the road, you didn't get anything else. You didn't get Arcadia solved. And you're stuck in a 6-year and Arcadia's gonna have, so how are we gonna fix Arcadia? Out of our,
Add portable.
Yes.
But add
right,
portables.
so I feel like we're in a pinch. And it seems like the only one is the non-voted bond that we do of part 1 and of part 2 that the voters vote on. That to me is the only way we're gonna, and that first one would have to include everything that we were talking about. It's got the land, the road, the transportation facility, the infrastructure for the elementary school, the requirements, the architecture for the elementary, and the addition for Arcadia.
Within
LCO,
you can't do new buildings.
He's talking about bond.
A bond,
He wants
a
to,
bond, non-voted bond.
but
Did we get the
I
ball
don't think
rolling?
that's not an option.
that's the LGO.
This is?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's the only option for non-voter debt.
And you can't do it for new buildings.
Correct.
Can't fit. But that's why we're gonna check to see if we can renovate Arcadia and see if it falls within, if it's not outside the,
yeah, she's not.
she was gonna check on that, so that is if that's a possibility, then we can solve the Arcadia problem,
So
which is the biggest issue. It's the biggest issue.
The biggest issue is we need to get the land from the
Agreed,
city.
agreed, agreed.
Okay?
That-
And that's the number one thing, because that gives us other options in the future.
But whatever we're going for has got to have the land and Arcadia. That's the package deal.
But we can't,
For you,
yeah, for you, not for everybody.
Well, I don't know how,
the facilities committee made it clear to us, get the land, which includes the road. That was their number one.
nobody argues that point. There's nobody.
So you
Nobody
just
in the whole
go
district.
back?
Nobody argues that point at all.
I would say
So
the
how do we-
transportation center was up there too.
Yep, and transportation center was the next one.
Right, and that,
And if we have to add portables, then we have to add portables.
Right, but the other part of that was the portable wasn't the only thing that needed to be updated, that the infrastructure could not support any more portables without an upgrade to the whole building itself.
It's a huge.
Power, there was luncheon, there was, the whole infrastructure of Arcadia has to be upgraded to take more portables.
That's why we ran the bond.
It's gonna be a waste of money. That's why we need the bond pass. But we're
Okay,
not.
well, we're at where we're at because we didn't have the full, we can beat this to dead horse. We didn't have the full plan laid out. So that's why we're trying to lay it out. We're still finding ourselves in the beginning where we're just talking about land and the transportation. You guys are still missing the Arcadia to what is beyond Arcadia.
Okay, so Jerry,
Yes.
if you got to pick right now, what we would do, what is it?
It would be, we buy the land, we put in the road, it's a non-voted bond. Non-voted bond, part one. And I know that's gonna
To
be
pay how?
to pay for.
How would
if
we
got
pay?
How
the
would we
Arcadia.
pay for that? Because we can't borrow,
You have to have a way to be able to
We
pay
can't.
it back.
no.
We have a limit, the non-voted bond?
Mhm.
We have to have a mechanism to be able to pay it back. So the land and the road at $5 million, right? So what's the
So we
plan to
could
pay
go
it back?
back, we could go back to voter bond. Voter bond 1, voter bond 2.
I think it's
Well, you wouldn't write a
60%.
bond for $5 million.
What's that?
You wouldn't run a bond for $5 million.
No, what I'm just throwing out is if we can't get enough money pulled into a non-voted bond or through a levy to take care of Arcadia, the land and the transportation facility and infrastructure and the design of the new elementary, then if it's got to be a bigger, then it has to be the voter bond then.
And that bond would, to take care of all that, would be build a new school to take care of all the problems, refurbish Arcadia, do the transportation facility and the
But we just
road and
ran.
everything,
Is that what we just ran?
with minus the Arcadia. To fix
Yeah,
the
it's
problem.
new elementary transportation.
But if we throw $10 million in Arcadia right now, which we don't have enough thing without raising the taxes again to do that and the road and the transportation facility, then we're circling, we keep coming back. We don't have enough money to do what you're asking to do. It's not that we can't borrow that money. We could do that if we pass the bond, but we can't do it out of pocket.
What we should probably do is put this on a board, on a whiteboard and start drawing it out so that we can all
Well,
see it.
I think what I'd like to get from Arcadia too is like, where's the greatest need? If we're going to talk about the envelope and redoing the cafeteria and the commons, like that's huge bucks. If we're talking about adding a portable, a couple million, or 2 portables, a couple million, so we're not throwing 10 million at it, but we're throwing 2, right? And
We don't
maybe
have
we did decide to throw into the capital levy the roof of Arcadia. So you get the 2 million for the 2 portables or the 3 portables, and then you do the roof at 1.5. That could be an Arcadia Band-Aid. Right?
Right.
Without,
And whatever the infrastructure is required to support the additional portals, whatever that
correct.
is.
That would be included.
And I know
in the
that elevator, I guess that thing it's got to be part of the plan. Because right now it's not handicap
I don't know
accessible.
what they can do to fix the elevator.
You know, it's not to
It
replace it.
wasn't made for people. It was made to put
It's a
the
free,
train, what is that?
be handy,
Free
yeah,
part
but to
thing.
be handicapped accessibility, we have to use it. We have veterans, I guess they tried, it was really hard.
Well, they can take them down the ramp where the cars go to the back to the gym, which is very inconvenient. We are still in compliance. But it's not nice
Okay.
to make your people go that far. But we're fine. That's, well, we
Well,
can
For now.
yeah. And hopefully we don't get a student that has wheelchair permanently, because right now we don't have one.
Go out and around.
Yeah, they have- we have
If
to
we're
take
going
them
through that,
all
I
the way
think
through.
it's part of the plan.
But that could be a Band-Aid for Arcadia as a part of the capital projects plan.
And that's where I was saying,
That's gonna be
I don't
costly.
know the specifics of the transportation facility. maybe there's something that we can slightly reduce there that gives us another $1 million to put towards Arcadia. We haven't seen the numbers.
Well, one thing I'm working on is a potential transportation co-op and looking at that.
Yes.
I'm looking at it. I haven't, our calendars of superintendents have had a hard time aligning.
It's not fancy, it's just a building.
I know, but I'm
With
just one of
a
those
meeting
where-
room and a separate bathroom than your sink
So-
for the kitchen.
Back to the facilities advisory committee.
Okay.
All those people were there
Mm-hmm.
and they said, priority, capital levy,
Capital levy.
do
Land.
that, get the land, transportation facilities, number one. And then we can think about, we can plan or do whatever moving forward. We cannot, I don't think we can borrow enough in a capital levy to fix our key. With adding common spaces, adding whatever, a wing, whatever you want to do. I mean, that's a lot of money. So just the what we did at the middle school was $7.5 million,
Yeah, that's what we'd be looking at.
The wing. $7.5 million wing.
Well,
So, or
over
$10
time.
million, whatever. Thing is, right now, we need to secure the land and stuff from the city. Oh, that needs to be number one. We can talk about these other things, but then we decide when do we want to move forward. Maybe we can have Corey Plager come to a board meeting and talk to us all, and he can answer these questions, or Jim McNeil's replacement. What's
Lee,
Lee.
he's from the west side.
So, but maybe we could Skype him in or something to answer questions about money.
Mhm.
How much can we borrow? What can we borrow? Tax rates like that. The advisory committee said the number one thing for them, and they represent the community just like we do. There was 30 of them there, or ish, right? Was the roads and get the land, get the roads and transportation facility.
Right, but I feel that they didn't have the big picture. They didn't have the Arcadia problem, and I think we're
They all know
are
Arcadia.
we are knee jerky to buy the land, put the transportation without laying out the plan for Arcadia, the elementary, in the future. So we've got to lay it all out. That's what I've been trying
We
to.
had the plan. So what I'm telling you, we knew that we didn't want to put a bunch of money into Arcadia to do that. So we ran the bond to replace that, and that fixed multiple problems. It fixed the Arcadia, moving HomeLink out of here. We gave us room, and it finished the other stuff. So we can't do that now.
Is that board a dry race?
Not the one in the middle.
The one on the left? Is there any dry race?
You go.
Very complete.
So
I would say that there was a plan, but it's hard to go long-term plan if we don't know what the short-term plan is.
right.
Right? So until we have the next 6 years figured out, we can't get the next 20 years figured out because we don't know what the first 6 are. I guess that's where I got a little bit stuck. Right? Am I wrong?
Yes.
I'm wrong. Eric, I'm wrong.
Oh, no,
He goes, yes.
Sorry.
Thank you.
Discuss this in January, because it's probably going to be after the 9th. Our first meeting is on the 9th.
We have another board meeting
So we can talk about it over.
But
and the retreat.
yeah. So
We have to lay this whole thing out. Even though right now we're focusing right down this, buy the land, buy the land, buy the land, we have got to lay all of this out. So that the public knows if we're doing this, we're gonna go after that. So we're gonna build the elementary, we'll build the track, and maybe other things we need to have in place. Arcadia's gotta be renovated, expanded, but we haven't figured that all out, right? Because we got the elementaries, it's got to have the requirements and design, that's gonna happen. So what I was suggesting is the first block was this. This was the first block. But we do the land, the transportation, the road, we do the requirements, and this is a couple million, right? Requirements, we could do it now, design, we still have to have architect. And it does have, I'm sure there's some shelf life to it, but we're not looking to let it sit there very long because we're gonna build it. And we want the voters to give us the do that. Our
what happens if
needs to be reworked, and we want the homely families to know that we're taking care of them. And they're gonna move into that facility because we're thinking about that. So this is something that can be done over the summer months, right? Like what we did with the roof at the elementary. So whatever renovation, expansion we can do over time. So that's what I'm trying to block one, block two.
see, I think block one is land, transportation, and road. And we have to deal, Arcadia, we cannot
2
renovate.
years. We're in trouble in 2 years.
We're in trouble now.
We're in trouble now, but we're really in trouble where we have to spend money on it. We will have to spend money on it. And we can't be tied up in this because if you're doing the levy, it's chicken out.
You're right.
We
That's-
are.
In order to fix Arcadia, we
Can't
needed a
afford it.
bond.
Okay,
We
so
needed
whatever.
to spend a lot of money and and why would we throw good money to expand, put another wing, do whatever in Arcadia when it's not needed?
Home Link doesn't need that, but I liked your idea of maybe if we could swap elementary or.
Yes.
But
So
I don't.
we got that
I don't
that whole
think it's
thing,
gonna happen
the
in
whole
2.5
thing
years.
has to be laid out. Whatever we decide to do, that whole thing has to be laid out, including the 15-year, what do we think is gonna come and get us? And
What do you think is gonna come and get us in 15 years?
we're gonna have an overcrowding in one of the schools. I don't know which one. Is it middle school? I don't think it's middle
The
school.
only way you have as much say in that as anything. We couldn't pay somebody to predict that.
We could take the numbers and
Or-
extrapolate
or we
it in
could- we
15.
could pay $19,000 for them to do.
Well, here's the
it, and I
thing.
prefer not.
So, okay, 15 years, we think we're gonna have, we'll just, speculate it's a high school. High school in 15 years, 16 years, is gonna have an overcrowd. So we back up
Like,
5 years from that, at the 11-year point, we're gonna start looking at the high school because we think at 16 years, we're gonna have an overcrowding. We're gonna start looking at it then, what we should do.
We look
yeah,
at
we
it,
already do it all the time, constantly.
We don't.
So here's what I would say is I think it is a part of the capital projects plan because we had the middle school renovation on there.
Yep.
Which when it hits the old part, when it hits 30 years is eligible for SCAP. That was a part of the plan.
Mhm.
Yes.
We just didn't have
Still
it.
is.
We just didn't have a specific timeline because the bond didn't pass.
Well,
We have
yeah.
a lot of capital projects lined up.
Terry, most people know about it and they are hopeful that we'll put in the new gym, which is like phase, I don't know what number that was. There's a lot of phases to the middle school.
It's not out there.
People know it.
Yeah, okay, so it has to be explicit, plan has to be explicit between now and whatever number of years, 20 years, if we go 20-year bond, what we're gonna have at 15. So that we anticipate, so that the voters say, okay, they thought through this. Because in 15 years, they may come back to us and say, okay, we need to do something more.
Okay, so what you're saying is, again, more information on the website for people to see that says we plan.
Yep.
Okay, but that doesn't solve our money problem because yes, we need all this. I agree with
Okay.
you, but how are we gonna do
Okay,
it?
now we figure out how to do the money. Well, how does
Okay, how do
money
we do
work?
it?
Okay, that's right. What's the art of the possible? What can we do?
and I agree with doing something in Arcadia, but I don't want to spend $5 million or $10 million or whatever it costs to renovate that. And then move people there or move them around or whatever, and it's not needed.
Right.
That's
Right,
that's
yeah.
my problem is we can't, I can't good thing throw $10 million at Arcadia.
So, yeah, the 10 million.
I know,
Okay,
I'm
let's
just-
not
yes.
talk about 10 million, but
Even five.
I think it's a scenario where, I guess I'm asking this question at this point. We gotta come up with something for the facilities advisory committee to keep moving forward with.
Yes.
We have to decide, okay, are we gonna go with the bond? Are we all gonna go back out for a big bond? Sounds like that's a no. Okay, so we move that away. So then we have this other conversation about non-voted districts. Sounds like that's a no because we can't do any buildings. So we'll move on.
We could go back for a while. It's not off the table.
We
I
go
was
back
gonna
for a
say,
bond.
it might be something we ask them, because we didn't focus at all on Arcadia, and maybe just drawing them back to like, okay, guys, we're, as a board, we're very concerned about the
Yes.
safety of our kids, and Arcadia needs things
Yes.
now.
Yeah,
You really want us to just do those three things?
Yeah.
Or did you forget about Arcadia?
Because
Like
when I
the
was
question
listening
asked.
in, what, I apologize, I didn't have to do, but when I was listening and I couldn't hear all of it, so couldn't hear all of it, but I'm very thankful for being able to hear what I could hear, is I didn't hear that the Arcadia was off the table. So I'm a fan, I definitely heard the land. The land,
That has
the
to
land.
happen.
has to happen. So whatever we have to do that. But other than that, it's a scenario, can we come back to that and say, okay, these are the things that the board keeps on coming back to. The land, the road, the transportation facility, the Arcadia, and the conversation about the track and field, because we started it. And that's where we have lots of people in our community. So
Yep.
I feel like, 1, 2, if we want to put this together, 4 things. Go back to the committee and say, these are our money. This is the dollar amount that we're at with a capital levy. And you guys tell us with some more information in between that time, with Lexa going back to the Arcadia and saying, okay, what size, and the other person that you work with the OAC or whoever is doing the designs for the schools. Architect.
MAC.
The size of the, what are the common places that we really need to address? Okay, what size are those? Give us a ballpark, $1 million, $4 million, whatever that is. And then, or is it the change of removal of the portables, which is the number one that maybe we can address right now? And is that $5.7 million for 8 rooms? And then we convert anyway, so that's where I'm at, Eric, is we can go round and round and round about this forever, but until we have a little bit more data, then I think it's a scenario where the whiteboard's kind of nice when the facilities, maybe you guys get together and you look at the pictures. Again, let's regroup of what is our true need in Arcadia? What do we need to address? What is the cost? What can we trade dollars back between all of them? And again, get multiple people, get those sports people, check the box. It's like the 4 lens training. We have the people want it now, right? The chance, the ones that are willing to give up risks. We've got those that want the box checked. We've got those that want community and love. Where are those common places addressed? And what's the other one? Anyway, it doesn't matter. Oh, analytics and the data. We have to be able to provide data, a feeling of belonging. We have to be able to say, hey, we are doing our due diligence and checking the boxes of what the codes and requirements are. And we need to make sure that that we have, like I said, the data is the 4th one. Right next, but I just feel like we need to make sure that we're touching the majority of people. So and I know I rambled, but.
And that was part of the reason to bring in multiple things into the calculation.
Correct.
What did you say? Belonging, community, analytics?
So we got to do the data. It's the feeling of people. So we got the gold people. Those are the checks, the box. Those are the people that know that we're following the law, following the protocols. We're doing those, doing our due diligence. You've got the ones that have the data. They need to know the numbers. You've got blue people. Those are your levy people. Those are your community. They need to feel belong. They need to feel like we're a family. This is connecting people. It's like the coffee shop, right? And then you have, what I say, green, blue.
What's green? What's green?
And then you've got the orange. Orange are the risk takers. So the most likely to be millionaires, the least likely, or the most likely to be incarcerated. Those are people that are saying, let's go for it. You know, what do we really, really want? They're the ones that are willing to jump off the cliff. So if we can picture, you know, trying to touch the most amount of people, because we have all 4 types of people in our community. You know, I mean, the sports people, but you just got to be thinking about, we've got to touch them. We've got to touch the people that care about the school and the kids right inside Arcadia. We got to talk about the transportation, the outwardly thinking, right? The forward thinking. We're building the road. If you build, they will come. So we've got to touch all of them. And that's why I feel like we need to be inclusive in our selection. And before I forget, we also need to make sure that when we go out again, we've got to address a couple things that I'm sure Steve's got on his list, but like the side of the middle school going off by the gym. Like, oh crap, I wish we would have had that patch before we went out for the bond. The things that people see that we have to think about for planning as well. If we go out for the big one again.
Are you sure that side one is not them doing classroom work remediation? It's a different.
When you pull the bus.
Yeah, it's on that wall.
Right by the bus.
Isn't that the 400 wing?
No,
It's the oldest
it's
part.
the wet wall.
The
Oh,
west of the kitchen, the wall of the kitchen.
okay.
It's stucco.
But
It's falling off the wall.
And Phil also noticed it, so it's
Yes,
like,
it's
okay,
kinda bad
it
looking.
should be, and I heard the
But
landscaping.
The priority low.
It's priority low, but
Yeah, but it's unsightly. Yes,
visual,
it's unsightly.
and that's what the track and field is, that's what Haley was talking about, right?
Mhm.
You've gotta get those people that say, oh, this looks really pretty, look at this community, everybody wants to go here. Put it
And
there. Then you got those people that are inside the building that, oh my goodness, we need more space. You've got the transportation facility that needs they're tired. We don't want to lose any more bus drivers than we already are losing. We need to honor them. We need to show our facility. And then nobody sees our transportation facility, but when you see it and it's beautiful, again, what does that present our community? We are investing. We are investing in our children. We're investing in our future. What to invest?
but,
So anyway, rambling, Eric.
yeah, so right now Alexa's talking with the city to see if we can move that somehow. Okay, but we need to talk at our January meeting about how maybe we can have some answers about exactly what we can use the LGO bond for, what we can use the capital levy for, exactly those, because it was a little bit confusing to me as to what we could use those for. Then how much money again are we talking? Because Jerry put this up there. I disagree with spending millions of dollars, $2 million on plans that we might not be able to use. So we can have a little bit, we could spend in-house money to do a little bit more in-depth stuff, but I believe that we can't do that. I think it's against the law.
Well, whatever the rules are, you follow.
But I'm just
You
saying.
wanna
then
lay it out, what you can do, and then if you can't do it, then you find another hybrid solution.
The reason we didn't renovate Arcadia was because it was going to cost more money in the long run than to build a new facility.
I know.
I know, but
But Homelink was going there. So
yes, but Homelink doesn't need it bigger.
No.
They just actually need it different than it is inside right now.
Correct.
So it's not, if we throw money at it, you use the word renovation, in there. We can't renovate the building. We can fix the roof or replace the roof, but that's something that's gonna happen anyhow. When I talked to Steve, he said they've been band-aiding it for 30, 20 years. So if they can keep band-aiding it, why would we replace it until it needs to be replaced?
Which might be now.
You just want to win over the HomeLink families who.
They don't want to move there to begin with.
I heard that. They gotta go
Small
somewhere.
portion of people that we're talking about,
Yeah.
of our community. And our
600
community is not pro
plus.
home link. You realize that?
Well,
Yeah.
it's still, it's still their alma mater. That's still their focal point. That's where they still have their liaison, right? Still the principal is it's still that community of what, 600 kids?
Yes. but
600 kids still are associated with HomeLink. And I know not all, some are just strictly home, right?
Yeah.
And don't even use the
We have
school.
about 100 who come each day.
Right, but you still have that part of the family that want a place to go. They can't stay here.
Correct.
Right? We're on borrowed time before the state says, we got, I don't know, we're
They're not
quiet
gonna
on
kick
it,
us
right?
out of here. Because
But
they
they know we're
understand
gonna
that
move them out. So we
sometimes.
need to honor that, the state, and move them out into a better facility. These partitions and the things that we do back there, 2 classrooms, 3 classrooms. And when I was teaching, I had another classroom next to me and there was home study behind me. So there's 3 of us in one room. That's
Now
not,
we need the bond to pass, Terry.
I agree, but Arcadia is where they're gonna go. So we gotta get it ready for them
When we get
and
that,
take care of it for the kids that are there now.
So if it can't do both.
Yeah.
no,
Well, I'm saying that plan's gonna include all of that somehow.
If-
It's 2 years.
If
But
we're not gonna be able to
2
do it
years, we're
2
in
years,
trouble.
we're not gonna be able to do it in 2 years.
In 2 years, we're in trouble at Arcadia.
We're in trouble now.
Yes.
We're in yellow. In 2 years, we're in red.
Yes.
So you're telling me we need a bond?
Okay?
I also think looking at the K2 numbers will be helpful.
Because
Yes, well,
K2 right now is going down.
lower.
They're a little bit lower.
In 3 years, when it all shifts up, what does it look like?
Yeah, well, and kindergarten is always the unknown every year.
And also
Right.
including in that,
Small.
The thing is, okay, so the requirements, we can do that in-house, right? That's the sending out, we meet with the folks, we meet with the janitors, we meet with the HVAC folks, we start collecting what would you like that facility, more things, right? So we have that.
We started that because the elementary teachers with some parents
Okay.
and with Lori went to go visit other elementaries and put their wish list.
Okay, so, all right, so we got to start. Now we do that for the transportation, which they've done,
Done.
right? So we have that.
Yeah, you came to some of them, I think.
And we can also start doing some design work. We can have the kids, they can offer out design. What would the transportation facility look like? What, you don't like that on
But
here?
we've done all this.
Never seen it. I haven't
the
seen it.
kids are not there.
We haven't done the kids, but we've done everything you've said.
Everything, you're like, oh, we've.
There's
done
no
this,
design.
done this, done this.
Well, we
Well,
did.
I've seen preliminary design.
Renderings.
Right, renderings were 5-star hotel lobbies,
Oh my
right?
God.
Well, I guess that's our point is we tried to go there, but they weren't welcomed or liked.
But-
So we didn't go there for the second round because of that
We avoided
feedback.
Right.
Very good.
And that's all
But-
they were
but
was like,
they help with that design. Why go to an architect? Well, you let the kids try it. You let them offer, let them be part of the design.
some of it
process.
is our own personal work capacity as well.
Well, I
So
agree.
Steve and
I agree.
Alexa, that
I
was
agree.
it.
But you got CAD program being ran at the high school, right? I mean, you've got kids that you can have them as a project. You can just, have little kids start designing it, what it will look like.
Okay, but that's great, but that doesn't help us.
What it does, because
Tell us
it's-
numbers and.
It
what
goes
we need to know
along with
that
the
you
other
want us
work.
to know.
You're trying to get community buy-in. They're part of the process.
Yeah, you're talking about getting
The
kids
facility
excited, right?
group is a limited body.
Yeah.
I don't feel they fully represent the voters, the constituents.
Who would you add on that list?
It would have to be a bigger group.
We've invited
We put it
tons of
out.
people.
We put it out in
Nobody
papers, we
came.
put it in our
It was literally
emails, we,
Public, anybody could come.
we, all of us invited someone or multiple people. Jerry, we
I know.
do it. No one wants to come. They just want to complain online.
Yes.
Okay,
So,
sorry, I'm running out of
all right.
3 a.m. was.
Okay, so
I feel like I have a pretty clear direction. I
for,
need to go to learn a little bit more about the LGO bond, right? Can it be used to add on to Arcadia or not? I think that was it. Because we know it's not for new construction. That was clear. What are the needs at Arcadia? What is coming up in terms of class numbers? We don't know much beyond kindergarten. So that's not like the 5-year plan, and what's coming isn't going to really help us because we don't know those numbers. That's, I
and
think,
you
my
continue to
takeaway.
work with the city
Yeah.
to do that.
Yes.
But also just in regards to the needs of the Arcadia, Greg, just get a little bit of ballpark, maybe what the cost of those things as well.
Okay. So yeah,
What,
Yeah.
Awesome.
there may be like high needs, like cafeteria, or is it gym, or is it classroom?
What
Classroom.
size roughly do you
Okay.
need for that? And that way that'll help us balance out our multi. At least to get the total.
Well, and I think prioritizing it, what's the size and what's the cost?
And I think we also need to, if we're asking all of these people that are coming to the facilities advisory committee to do that, to give their time, we need to honor their recommendations to a point, okay? Because ultimately it's our responsibility to make the choice, but we're asking them, and they all came, and they've all come for many of those people have been on there for multiple years. So they understand everything. If they're making a suggestion, they are the bigger part of the community than just us. So if you disagree with who's on there, then tell people that they should come. Because if not, we have
Well, my wife
invited.
I don't think you guys listen to her very well. So it's sort of like me here at the board. You guys don't listen to me very well. My wife goes.
Maybe it's how you present it.
Maybe it's because you guys don't listen.
No, maybe it's how you. present it.
Yeah.
And they're combative, based on what I heard.
Yes, your wife came in very combative.
So
Well, because you guys don't listen.
No,
Yeah.
She wasn't there to listen. She was there to speak.
and then when it came time, she had no offerings for any ideas.
Yeah.
She said nothing.
no.
Because you're going to listen?
Share that.
You asking
Yes,
me
they
at the
all went through The
beginning.
entire room. And asked every little group that had, because we obviously not individuals, that was too many people, little groups to give in their 2 cents on what their thoughts were.
Mhm.
And that side had nothing.
No, I don't know. Sometimes I think your facilities groups are prearranged
No,
meetings.
there's.
Yeah, that there's already an agenda. Yeah, I already think there's an agenda already established before you even go
Me too.
into it. And you're just going to publish it to the group.
To,
Right, but it's sort of like, again, we're just going to run down the same bad road. So you have something on the board to work with. That is the
Okay,
plan.
that's what they
that's your
gave
plan.
us.
I don't see 15 years on their plan. I don't see trying to build anything with Arcadia and trying to fix the problem there. And then, of course, yeah. we have to
Okay,
build-
so for the last 10 years, we've been building up to the point where we went out, we planned, okay, to move pre-K 1 and 2 to the elementary. 2 through 5 would go to the new school. Arcadia would be used by the Homelink. Okay, all of that was talked about, was presented, was everything. Whether you listened or not, I can't tell you that.
Well,
Okay, the whole thing, that was the plan. Now
And it
we're
goes
trying
further,
to
because
chunk
so-
it.
so the other thing is how did we get in this bad road, right? So we have a transportation facility that should have been replaced years ago.
Because we chose to spend money on kids, not
And
on.
our.
Right, so we just kept adding portables at the Arcadia, and we just let the transportation facility just keep taking it, and taking it, and taking it.
Jerry,
Didn't
you
have
only
it
have so
mapped
much
out.
bond
What?
debt capacity. We have to wait till the high school falls off, and it is. That's why we did this.
It's not
Right, but
unlimited.
you still
funds.
can't ask them for X number, 27 years. Remember, that's what we talked about?
That's
Two
your
boards.
problem. People don't want higher taxes. That's what they've told us.
Here's the thing, that's the other thing you guys didn't do very good listening is you have to show them that their taxes weren't gonna go up that much. You didn't show that to them. You
We
didn't
did,
run them
they
off.
said, so they said.
No,
we
it was
don't want that.
confusing. The word back was whatever you gave for data. You go ahead. I know you. Again, you guys.
Jerry, I
have
feel
to-
like it's your way or no way.
You have to listen to I'm listening to constituents. I am
How many
constituents?
constituents? How many
They said no, they're not
constituents?
listening.
How many constituents do you talk to that tell you,
Besides your wife.
gotta.
don't do this, don't do that? You keep saying, the voters, my constituents, all this stuff. Tell them to come here.
Yeah, come
And
talk
tell
to
us.
us. We are in the community. We're at all the games. We hear all this. I'm telling you exactly what I hear and see every time I go out in public.
They agree that we need it. They don't
Yes.
agree.
They don't
to
wanna
solve
pay
it
for
over
it.
Is
27
what they
years.
told me. No. they don't
27
tax
years.
it.
They want
They
27.
didn't want to pay
Tell
for it.
47.
They do care. And if you don't tell them they should care, you should tell them they should care because there
We
is gonna be
did.
a problem at 15 years.
There's
And now
not,
who's solving that?
who's
Are you
gonna
gonna be
fix the
here?
problem and
Who's gonna be
What's
here in
the
15
problem?
years?
Yes, we are going to be in this community. I do not plan to leave.
yeah, I don't plan to.
Right, you're
I
gonna
was
leave
born and
this
raised
problem for someone else in 15 years?
No, I plan
without
to
a
be part
plan?
of this.
It's the circle of life. Every chunk.
And-
of
Oh,
life,
yeah,
Right,
things
well, you
are-
lay it out.
What's
You lay it
wrong
out.
with what's wrong at 15 years?
We don't
We
know,
don't know.
right? Could be the high school is gonna be overloaded,
It
right?
could
Why do you
be,
have to worst case?
You have to,
No.
because you wanted to go to 30 years. 27 years,
Land
basically
left. There's
30
no
years.
No more expansion.
the only reason we
Public's not
did
gonna
30
buy in a 30-year bond if we don't have that plan laid out beyond 2 years. In
We have-
15 years, there's something's gonna happen.
About the years.
And you gotta
They
put it
care
on the
about
table.
How much they have to pay.
And you have to tell the public that we may not know what it is. We think it's gonna be this. And I'll tell you what, 5 years before the problem occurs, we're gonna start working on it. We're not gonna wait till it's kicking us in the ass.
It's,
This is
That's where we're at now. We're getting our ass kicked.
You
No.
can't be proactive though, because until the problem's here, you
You
can't do
can be
anything about it. No,
proactive.
you
You're
can't.
wrong. You can be. 15 years.
I would argue that we did have a 15-year plan
Yes.
because after the bond, we were
and
going to
the
be looking at the
facilities
middle
committee,
school
you look
and
at all
the
things
track
that are
and
there in
field.
front of them, they prioritize.
I actually think we did.
this.
And it's actually posted, I think.
No, I looked at it. I didn't see it on there. It's not out there.
That's what's your opinion, Jerry.
Okay.
So
Back
back
to,
to facilities committee, Eric.
yes, ma'am.
I haven't been there,
Mhm.
so, but it would be interesting. You know, you might want to go back to the whole deal where people do the little voting thing, so it's a visual, so that everybody has a voice. They get their little dots and at the end, they get to say this package, this package, this package, or this package. And that way it's able to see and stick a step back. And then you say, okay, and then you talk about it as a group, right? So it's like you educate them again, this is the locations, this is where we've come up with some ideas. Everybody goes back, puts their little dots back, okay, step back, let's talk about where we're at. Did this align to what we as a committee, as a community, want to move forward with? And if there's gray areas, you know, there's averages, okay, those conversations, if it's blown out of the water one way, and we've done a really good job already providing those buckets, if you will, then the proof is in the pudding. And so maybe, and I haven't been to those committees,
Mhm.
but maybe that's the way to do it. Instead of just having a voice, maybe they didn't feel like talking is their way. Maybe it's.
So we
just
put
going out there.
everything back out there
Yeah,
and let them.
not everything. But go ahead.
No, and let them repick it.
Or should we make some options?
Yeah,
Well,
I think
I think
you make little
We
packages.
came little packages.
I mean, like similar to this, but
Yeah,
So like the
just-
first one, which was land,
Yep.
transportation and road.
Yep.
Yeah.
That be the one. But I think we do need to point out, it doesn't solve Arcadia's problem, which is a lot of our concern.
Yeah.
correct. And so
but I think we got stuck on that.
We got
Yeah.
stuck on it and present that and get some more information. And then kind of gather it up so we can. And again, we don't want to come in saying, we've already decided this as a board for you to do this as a facility. We don't want to do that. But
What do you
just
think
enough-
of these?
What are your thoughts on the buckets, or have them convert the buckets, but just so that it's a visual, so that in the end you can take a picture of it and go, do we all, this is what we agreed on. It's not just written down. Stop, and then you can come back to it again. I mean, this comes to me because the WASDA training on strategic planning. It's got to do with the little dots, right?
And the community.
The
and
community
staff.
did the dots,
Mhm.
the staff did the dots. So we encourage people to come do the dots.
Okay.
Just that's the thought.
Well, we will have more answers at our January 9th workshop.
Yep.
And we'll have to make time for this. So. Okay,
Sweet.
do you have anything else? All right,
Conversation.
adjourned. Thank you.